Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's so great to be here.
Well, good. I hope this will go well enough that you'll come back in the future sometime. So,
Well, I hope so too.
a couple of things, audience. For those of you who sent in the 200 questions that you wanted me to ask Justin, we took the best of the best and we've incorporated them into the conversation. That's the first thing. The second thing is Justin has given me a time of about 1 hour. So there's a lot to get through in that time. And there was something else I needed to say. Oh, I wanted you to know that Justin has not seen the questions in advance. He's hearing and seeing these questions for the first time. So because we have a limited amount of time, I'm going to jump right into questions. Justin, you okay with that?
Happy to oblige.
All right. What you're going to see is that I've divided my questions into 6 different areas. I won't introduce each area, but I will let you know that I'm about to start a new area. These are the 6 questions that if he had given me 5 minutes to have a conversation, I would have asked. All right.
All right.
Justin, Fenn's chest was found in 2020. The auction happened in 2022. Your launch in 2025, somewhere in that gap, you decided to step into the arena. When was the moment you knew you were going to do this?
You know, I had thrown around the idea for many years, especially looking for forest treasure. I had always had this, in the infinitesimally small chance that I found it, this idea that I could rehide it. And I certainly wasn't the only one to have that idea. A lot of people did. But I think just I ended up being in a position where I could make it happen. And, there were a few driving factors that kind of led up to that. I think one of them was, some pretty serious health concerns. And I think that causes a lot of self-reflection. And I really wanted to think about how, if things didn't turn out so well for me, how I wanted to experience whatever time that I had. And so I chose to funnel that into a treasure hunt.
Well, what a great decision and what a great way to resolve life's continuing issues, Congratulations on that decision.
Yeah.
You, of
Thanks.
course, deal with lawsuits, stalkers, and chaos. Why knowingly take on that same burden? Did you ever almost talk yourself out of it?
It's an interesting choice of words, burden. And I think at times it's easy to feel that way. I don't think anybody who's experienced the full arc of a large-scale treasure hunt goes in naive, not knowing what could happen. So I went in, as they say, eyes wide open. But really what it boiled down to is the experience that I had and how much ultimately joy that it brought to me. And I realized that I wasn't alone in that regard. And I felt like the world lost something with the ending of the Fenn treasure hunt. And so I'm by no means, trying to create the magic of what Forrest did. His certainly stands alone. But I wanted to do what I could to further the magic in whatever way that I could. And this was the best that I could muster.
So that actually brings me to the next question. How did the chaos at the end of the Forrest Fenn hunt influence the guardrails you built into this one?
Well, very much so. Forrest didn't have the ability of hindsight. It ended. A lot of things were chaotic, and I think it was very reactionary in nature. But it was also an excellent case study. And so for me, I think that's really where the rubber hit the road in terms of seeing everything that could have gone better. And by no fault of his own, he just didn't know. So I did the best that I could based on my observations and the experience that I had to iterate on that and ensure that it might be hopefully a smoother experience. Treasure hunts are all fun and games until it's found. And then a lot of unfortunate things can happen. And I'm aware of those potentials, but I've done what I can to make the ending as streamlined as possible and also make it as authentically and independently verifiable as possible.
So I do want to mention, for those of you that don't already know, a lot of the information relating to the hunt, including the rules of the hunt, are on Justin's website, and that's at treasure.quest. And I've put it down in the tagline below us. So if you haven't checked that out, I'd be surprised if any of you haven't checked it out. But if you haven't, make sure you go there to visit. And it's very well done, as everything that Justin does. We're very well done website. The phrase, quote, "zero doubt," unquote, resonates strongly with the community. Conceptually, what does that mean to you as a designer?
In what context?
In what context? In the context of how people see your treasure hunt. Zero doubt.
Yeah, so I mean, I can recall offhand a few times I might have mentioned that very specific term in maybe a few different contexts. But generally speaking, I wanted to design a treasure hunt where the person that finds it along the way, they will gain confidence as opposed to, a status quo. I think, Forest Treasure Hunt was interesting. You went from 0 to 1. There was no in between. It's like you could be 5 feet away and not know it. And that's certainly, at least to a certain degree, there are some of those possibilities in my treasure hunt as well. But it was the clues as you progress through them. It was a question of, am I on the right track? And you really, truly didn't know until the treasure was in front of you. And that's something that makes treasure hunting hard. And so I wanted to kind of play on that a little bit and give a way for people to gain confidence as opposed to losing or having a status quo of confidence as they work through the clues.
Setting aside whether the treasure is found tomorrow or years from now, how will you personally know this hunt was a success?
How will I know it's a success? Well, I think that there are enough mechanics in play such that I will know when the treasure has been found, and action can be taken at that time. Now, I mean, I could get run over by a bus tomorrow, and I have to ensure that the treasure hunt can run smoothly without me being here. And I feel confident that it can. I think that's about all I can say about that. Let me think about this for a moment. No, I think that's good.
All right.
I think that's good.
So I wasn't planning to ask follow-on questions, but I think I want to on this one. Let's say 40 years from now, it's 10 years past when your treasure was found, and somebody says, was it a success? How would you know it was a success other than it was found?
My gosh, 40 years ago, 40 years from now, and 10 years after it was found would imply that it's been 30 years.
Hypothetically.
Yeah, I really don't think it's going to take that long. But the temporal aspect aside, how will somebody judge whether it's a success? I think there's only so much that you can do in terms of clues and what they mean. At some point, they need interpretation. And I think for any given clue that somebody creates, there's another person in the world that will look at it and say, that makes no sense at all. And so I tried to design the treasure hunt in a way where even if one particular clue may not make 100% sense to a given individual, they can still, I guess, for lack of a better term, limp along and ultimately piece things together. But I think the ultimate gauge of success is, was the find verifiable? Did the treasure actually exist? And maybe it's also a function of the number of conspiracy theories that exist post-find. I have to think that there's an inverse relationship there. So I would also say that the less conspiracy theories exist, the better the success of the treasure hunt.
I think that's an excellent measure. I think that's a really good measure. You created treasure.quest as the official home for the hunt. Rules, updates, and classification all live there. What role did you intend that site to play in balancing official guidance with organic community discussions?
Good question. I wanted to design the site as a central hub so that you're generally one click away from any sort of information that is hunt related. And so you do not need to be in the Discords. You do not need to be on all the different social media channels 24/7. Now, I'm saying it's totally fine to do that. It's a great community outlet for a lot of people. And I think that social engagement is really powerful, but it's not necessary. Everything that is related to the hunt, I want a centralized location where you can go to one spot, treasure.quest, on the announcements page, and you can see anything that I post that is specifically related to the hunt, whether it's a YouTube interview like this, that of course I'll link after we're done here, or anything else that I think is relevant. Now, I know that from time to time there are murmurs of, oh, well, I went to a lunch with the treasure hunter, or I dropped into a Discord and said hello, or answered a few questions. And I think that really boils down to trust in a creator. And it's a question of whether or not you believe that the creator is not going off in private conversations and giving away private hints. And that, I think, is just an important foundation for any treasure hunt. If you think the creator is capable of doing that, then it's probably not the right treasure hunt for you. But to the best of my abilities, this is what I do: is I treat the website as the single source of truth. And I update it as regularly as I'm able to make sure that it has all the information anybody needs within a few clicks away of the pertinent details.
So let's go on to round one. That was round zero. You're an engineer by trade. What was harder, engineering the logic of the hunt or crafting the narrative history around it?
No, gosh. Narrative history. I don't. So by narrative history, are you referring to the book?
Yeah, the storytelling. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, yeah. The treasure hunt came together fairly quickly. I had never written a book before. Of course, I guess arguably you could say I have designed treasure hunts before, but to far lesser degrees than this one. But for the book, I don't recall ever writing a book before. So that was harder. Some chapters came very easily and very quickly, and others were a struggle. But it really made me realize that I should leave writing to the professionals. It's an unenviable profession. I think there's it's that grind each day where you need to sit down and you need to write something, and you need to know that what you're writing, you're probably going to change 30 times before it gets released. So I think that was the harder aspect to me, was the actual writing of the book as opposed to the mechanics of the treasure hunt itself. Just because I think probably in an engineering mindset, I felt at least a base level of confidence, I think, that I could put all the pieces together in terms of, I think what is in effect a verification chain, so that later on somebody can look at this independently and say, it checks out, like this works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a process. We found out in our treasure hunt that it's not as simple as writing a book and a poem and putting a treasure out there. There's a bunch of pieces that all have to fit together in the end. So I used AI to analyze your public interviews. It described you as an open book on narrative, but a steel vault on mechanics. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, I think that's in the eye of the beholder. I try and be very cautious around certain mechanics because I think those words carry more gravity, and they need to be crafted very carefully, especially in a public setting. And so I'm much more apt to answer those types of questions if it's in written form, because it gives me time to really think through it and analyze it before I provide a full answer, as opposed to something that's, well, like this, more verbal and off the cuff. The potential for mistakes is higher, and those mistakes have repercussions, right? I mean, people, as we know in all treasure hunts, they mince and slice and dice every word that comes out, and this will be no different. And so, I think back when I was searching for the Forrest Fenn treasure, the last thing that I wanted was for Forrest to say something that was incorrect. And I would much rather him take his time and respond very deliberately and diligently, as opposed to something off the cuff. And I seem to recall, maybe it was you that created a kind of a pyramid of truth,
Mhm.
and it's at the base, you have something where Forrest took his time, or a treasure hunt creator took their time, and they wrote it down. And maybe it's even on their website or in their book, like that is kind of the foundation. And you kind of move up from there. When you get to the very top, as I recall, it's like, oh, it's an off the cuff answer verbally in a non-professional setting like that. That's going to carry far less weight. So I hope people keep that in mind. But I try to do the best I can. There, if I think about all the statements that I said since the treasure hunt has launched, just to the best of my recollection, there's nothing that I recall saying that was incorrect. And I think from time to time, people look at that and say, oh, well, I've got this statement and that statement, and they're at odds with each other. But I think it's really important to look at the context in which it was said. And I think once people consider that, they may come to a different conclusion that, oh, actually, these two things can fit together in a complementary way.
Yeah, that whole thing was based upon how the intelligence community evaluates incoming information before it actually becomes usable. So that's
That makes
fun
sense.
that you remembered that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So before I get technical, I promised Emma of Emma and Jam Treasure Hunt with
I'm
us.
already afraid.
I promised I'd ask this question for her. Between her and Jam, whose hosting style do you find more entertaining and why?
Oh my gosh, really putting me on the spot here. I would say it depends on how many drinks either of them have had.
That's good. I haven't said, I assume that I did an interview with them recently. I didn't know if either one of them was drinking, but
I don't know either. Maybe I could guess.
how does your grandfather's legacy influence the emotional center of this hunt, even if it's not the solution itself?
Well, my grandfather, I think, I like to believe that I had very strong male role models and figures in my life, especially in my early life, and he was one of those people. And so, to me, it means a great deal. And I think that the way in which those people that impress upon you early in life and shape who you are, there's, I don't want to say an obligation, but there is a need for them to be remembered. And I think that is certainly important to me. Yeah.
Oh, it comes across.
Oh,
Let's go on to round two. From a design perspective, did you intentionally build in moments that signal to a searcher, quote, you may be drifting too far, unquote, before they commit major resources?
for whatever reason, my audio cut out briefly. Could you just repeat that for
Okay,
me,
I'd be
please?
happy to.
Thanks.
From a design perspective, did you intentionally build in moments that signal to a searcher, quote, you may be drifting too far, unquote, before they commit major resources?
I think that's a very hard thing to do in a treasure hunt. At some point, I think, as I mentioned before, like you will not solve the entirety of the clues sitting at home. I think you could have a very good idea, but you can't necessarily, or you cannot solve it entirely from home. So there is a boots on the ground component. I think like for any treasure hunt, or for many treasure hunts, that's true. I get the kind of the same sense from, say, John Collins' Black Hunt as well. There is a lot of analytical thinking involved. It seems clear enough. But additionally, at some point, even if you know the area, you have to go out and find it. And so what I did try and avoid is this notion of drudgery in the form of, grid searching an area day after day after day, and the resources that can be consumed as a result of that. But it's also a balance between that and, well, the sense of adventure. And I think the core of adventure is beyond your map's edge, getting off and doing something, getting away and doing something that you wouldn't normally do. And, there can be a bit of expense involved in that, the logistics of going to a place and so on. But I tried to design it in a way where there is a balance, where you do get that experience, but you do not need to spend exorbitant amounts of time draining resources in the outdoors in order to find the treasure.
And I think also there's a balance between protecting them from themselves and limiting their imagination, because I think imagination is what sells a treasure hunt. So,
oh boy, I don't think truer words were never spoken. I think that's spot on, and it's a hard balance, especially in today's society with all the legalities and so on. I do miss or reminisce about maybe an earlier time where it was kind of the more romantic version of just going out and hiding something and saying, just go find it. Like that's really the end of it. But unfortunately, it's just not quite the world we live in.
Yeah. You built this hunt largely in isolation. Now that it's live, has anything about how people engage with it surprised you?
I think all treasure hunts have their unique surprises. Kind of reminds me of a book by Raymond Chen many years ago. I think it was called the Old New Thing, or the New Old Thing. There are certain patterns that certainly repeat, and I think no matter what treasure hunt is out there, there's going to be a certain amount of just drama. I don't know if this is answering your question though. But you want to repeat the question and make sure I get this right?
You built this hunt largely in isolation.
Yeah.
And you did that to protect yourself and the hunt. Now that it's live, has anything about how people engage with it surprised you?
I think there have been a few, acute situations where I felt like I set up enough ground rules and was really clear about things where I thought, well, maybe this is clear enough where people won't do X, Y, Z. But unfortunately, they still do. And, that's unfortunate, but it shouldn't be surprising to me. But it was a little surprising. I guess just call me naive. But no, I think generally speaking, so far, the only thing that I think surprised me is that I thought the technical clue would have been found a little bit earlier than it did. It does not surprise me that it was released publicly. I figured that would happen, and I was hoping that would happen because it's just the kind of thing that was an Easter egg, and it really wasn't meant to be kind of a core part of the solution. And it was very technical for some people, and so I didn't want people to get the impression that, oh, it's like, oh my gosh, this is the foundation for this treasure hunt. If I can't solve this, I'm not going to solve anything. It's not like that. It's just something fun that I put in. But yeah, it probably took a little bit longer for people to solve that than I anticipated. And I think kind of the treasure hunt as a whole, part of me really thought that it would have been found by now. And of course it hasn't. But time will tell. Time will tell.
Well, I love the idea that you think it should have been found by now. I think that's going to be exciting to a lot of searchers to hear that.
Oh.
Let's go back to Treasure Quest for just one more question, and this is based on a hypothesis of mine rather than anything else. The site places clear emphasis on rules, safety, and boundaries. How early in the design process did you realize that the rules themselves were part of the hunt's architecture and not just legal housekeeping?
That the rules were part of the architecture? Yeah, I mean, I think there's a recipe for a good solid treasure hunt, and rules are certainly an aspect of that recipe. Um, so I think it's fair to say I realized early on that there needs to be ground rules, and that was iterative based on what we saw with Forrest Fenn's treasure hunt. I really wanted to avoid um, any sort of injury or worse as it pertains to a treasure hunt, and that's always the balance that you have between, what is a true adventure without at least kind of the feeling of danger,
Mhm.
but also having some guardrails on it, but not to the point where it's bubble wrapped and not fun, not adventurous. So yeah, I mean, I think to answer your question, I think I realized very early on that a solid set of ground rules were really paramount to making sure that things stay on the rails and that people stay safe.
Do you think modern treasure hunts are sometimes misunderstood because people bring expectations from past hunts that no longer apply?
Oh, certainly. I think, I mean, even just, the experiences that people have throughout their life as they grow old, it shapes who they are, and it shapes their opinions. And I think it's no different with treasure hunts. People had asked me early on, do you need to have gone through the Forrest Fenn experience in order to be successful with this treasure hunt, or do I need to have a deep knowledge of Forrest Fenn to figure this out? And to the best of my abilities, I ensure that uh, doesn't need to happen.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, there's always biases. Everybody has them, myself included, of course. And so I think just like the awareness of a potential bias is step one, and making sure that you don't kind of carry forward things that might, I wouldn't say taint, but shape a treasure hunt in a way that would give an advantage to somebody who has a prior experience with, say, the Forrest Fenn treasure hunt.
So I do want to take just one moment to say something to the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, I very much appreciate the fact that some of you have contributed via Super Chat, and I'm sorry I don't have time or I don't have the resources to recognize each one. I see them and I'm very grateful. And if I had a Shelley here, she could handle doing this, you know. But I'm just very much focused on this. So I don't want you to think I'm not noticing, and I don't want you to think that I'm not grateful. I am noticing, and I am grateful. And since that one just happened, thank you, Ted.
I
Let's go
feel like
over
a
to
bum here. I feel like I should be running the super chats or something.
round three. You've advised against searching in the snow. Is that primarily an access issue or a concealment issue?
Access or concealment. It's primarily a safety issue.
Mhm. I should
Uh,
have put that in there. That
you know,
I should have made that part of it.
yeah, I mean, I don't want anybody doing anything dangerous. And it's funny because danger is relative. For people that say are used to the snow, it could actually be far less dangerous than going to, say, New Mexico in July and running out of water. I mean, the heat is actually a much more dangerous aspect than the cold here in the U.S. But I the primary aspect is safety. I don't want anybody getting hurt, and I think yeah, that's all I'll say about that. Yeah.
Broadly speaking, how important was physical safety in deciding where and how the treasure was placed?
Uh, there were definite safety aspects considered. Um, I certainly wouldn't want somebody scaling a cliff side, and with carabiners and rope in order to get to a location. So, to the best of my abilities, I've hidden it in a spot that is safe. And safe is a relative term. It's like, well, it's in the wilderness, and there are animals in the wilderness. There's weather in the wilderness. But to the best of my abilities, I've hidden it in a location that I think is safe.
Good. Um, let's see. Oh, okay. So this is just a continuation of the safety thing. Without specifics, is this a hunt you'd feel comfortable with people approaching responsibly with older children?
Yeah. So for legal reasons, I will say that the treasure hunt is for adults,
Mhm.
18 years or older. Um, I mean, practically speaking, I'd love to say more about that, but from a legal perspective, I can say it's an adult endeavor.
Okay. I had a second part to that asked about younger children, but I understand your point and I'm not going to push it. On to round 4. What responsibilities does a steward have once the treasure is found, especially regarding verification and disclosure?
The steward plays a very important role. The steward is there for a couple of different reasons. One is to verify the authenticity of the finder, to make sure that they genuinely found the treasure. And there is a foolproof way that that happens. And it also is what you call zero knowledge in its approach, in the sense that the steward does not know where the treasure's at. But based on the true finder that comes forward, a few things can be divulged. One can be deciphered. One is, yes, this person is telling the truth. They are the one person that found the treasure. And two, we can say with 100% certainty where the treasure was. And then once that process is complete, the steward is in possession of additional items that will be released to the person that finds the treasure. Probably most notably is the other half of the Bitcoin wallet key. And it's actually some other interesting things as well. And then the other responsibility of the steward is to ensure that no one continues to search, because you certainly don't want people out searching for something that's already been found. So those are really the main responsibilities, and I think it's a vital part of a well-constructed treasure hunt.
I would love to have a conversation, and maybe you already have had, about the concept of a Bitcoin wallet, because I don't know anything about it, nothing. And I went looking for it on YouTube the other day, and now all I'm getting is advertising for small Bitcoin treasure hunting devices that you plug in nearby. So
They've got your number, yeah.
I need to know a lot more about that. You've described the container as, quote, extremely recognizable, unquote. What makes it meaningful to you without getting into identification details?
I think it will be abundantly clear to anybody who has been involved in this treasure hunt why it's important to me once it's been found. But I will say it is of great significance to me, and it is something that was built specially. Yeah.
Once the hunt concludes, how transparent do you intend to be about the solution and the process?
Oh, that's a good question. It's funny, like when this treasure hunt first started, I thought, I want to move this along quickly. And I still do. That being said, I also don't want to alienate somebody who has put in the time and the effort and feel that they are close, and to kind of rob them of that by limping everybody else along to near the finish line. And I think the same could be said post treasure hunt as well. Maybe there are people out there that want to continue to solve the clues for fun and kind of figure it out on their own. But I suspect there will be more people, way more people, that will just want to know what was it. And so my plan at this time is to actually release the full solution that would include, a key or the solution to all the clues. And I think in order to put things to rest, to show the authentic and genuine nature of the treasure hunt, some supporting documentation would also be released to give zero doubt to people that it was hidden at a specified location. So that's my plan.
Good. What was the moment was there a moment where you deliberately removed something from the hunt to preserve its integrity?
There was nothing that I removed from the hunt due to integrity. There were things that ultimately did not get included in the physical vessel because it just didn't fit. It's literally, I mean, filled to the brim, filled to the gills, and I really couldn't put anything else in it. And so I will say, whoever finds it, be careful because it is filled very tight, and you know, you probably risk damaging something if you aren't careful about transporting it. Now, the things that did not fit. So funny story. There were 3 things, very small items. I think ultimately very inconsequential, not super high value or anything like that, that I just forgot. You know, I thought I had all this master plan, and typical Justin, you know, I get out there and I'm like, where is, you know, XYZ? And it wasn't there. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So that is left with the steward just because I messed up. And then there are a few other things that were left with the steward because they just didn't fit. But everything I think of real gravitas or of consequence or of significant value, that at least everything that has been divulged publicly, that is in the treasure. There are just a few things that have been set aside that I really think that the finder is going to want. Yeah.
Oh, so let me make sure I understand. So these items that you forgot to include in the container now are in the hands of the steward, and
That's
the
right.
finder will own them. Oh, okay. All right.
Yes. Yeah.
Good. Wow. Even better. So I don't have this question on my list, but my curiosity button is wavering here. What happened to the olive jar? Why is the olive jar, which was this significant part of the soul of the Forest Fen treasure hunt, end up in another treasure hunt? And I don't mean to put you on the spot over it, and I don't mean to. If you don't want to talk about it, fine. But my curiosity is killing.
Yes, the heralded olive jar. It has had quite the journey. You think about it, it started with Forest, likely there in Santa Fe, and then, you know, it traveled well wherever you think the treasure was hidden, and it remained there for the better part of a decade. And then from there, if you are in accordance with Jack Steve's story, it went to New Mexico, as I recall, and then sat in a safe deposit box, and then went to Texas for the auction. And from there, it ended up coming, well, actually, it remained at the auction house, and then it was sold. So, yeah, I mean, what happened with that? So when the auction house did their inspection of the various items, which took a very long time, they were able to determine that the seal had not been broken on the olive jar. And so it was intact at the time of the auction. I had, you know, an opportunity to buy it out from the LLC and keep it personally. And I put a tremendous amount of thought into that. And there were a few different reasons why I ultimately chose not to do that. One is because maybe a little bit of self-doubt or I guess criticism. I didn't necessarily feel like I was the best person to do it. I think that there was a lot of conspiracy theories floating around, and certainly some of them involved me purportedly, you know, and so I felt that if I did this and I opened it, nobody, those people would not believe it, even if there was independent verification. And so I felt like I just wasn't the best person to do that. I was really hoping that it would just become public knowledge. I was actually very surprised how it turned out. So I didn't know that JCB was interested or even bidding on any of the items. Of course, I didn't know he was putting together his treasure hunt at the time, and he did. And so that was kind of I just didn't see that one coming. I really thought whoever bought it, they were going to open it. And I thought that, somebody who paid significant value for it, it was in their best interest to make sure that it was authenticated as part of the process of divulging it, which surely they would want to do. And they didn't. And so, just kind of a twist. So as I understand it, JCB actually just opened it himself and just popped it out and read it, and then kind of put it back together and put it in his own treasure hunt. So it had a long, interesting journey.
This, again, not on my list. Have you had any conversations with JCB?
No. I actually sent one email at some point to, I think, his PR person, but I have never talked to him. No.
All right. I was curious about it. I am in the same state. I'm trying to get an interview with him, and it's just communications with me in a very, very briefly written emails in response from his handlers. Most participants never post publicly. When you think about those silent searchers, what experience did you most want them to have?
Oh, the silent searchers. So you mean posting on social media, or
being part of the Discords and social media and big old YouTube channels? And what about?
Well, all things considered, that's the majority of searchers. I get a lot of emails from people, and of their own accord, they mention I'm not on any social media, or I browse the social media, but I never post. And I get way more emails from those types of people than the people that are actually very engaged in social media. So, yeah, I mean, I think, you think about the Forrest Fenn treasure hunt, and in retrospect, those were the most dangerous people, right? Dangerous as in competitors. I mean, Jack was not much of a social media guy, as I recall. No. Maybe at some point he did a little bit of posting here and there under pseudonyms and so on. But he was kind of quiet. I think he kind of came out of nowhere. And so, you have to wonder, maybe will that be a similar situation, this treasure hunt? I don't know. I'm not sure if that answers your questions, but those are probably...
No. I think it does. I think that's a good answer for it. I have to tell you that I didn't know it. I never knew it until after it was brought, after the treasure hunt had ended. He actually called into our show several times.
He did, yeah.
And everybody, they went and literally started doing research on all our calling videos to see what else he had said. And the worst part about it is I did him the old, well, Jack, he didn't use Jack. He had another name, but anything is possible, So I got beat up over that one.
I thought it was pretty entertaining, actually. Yeah, so I mean, he had actually, I think after that, he chose to go and make his own YouTube video about biases.
Yeah.
But it's funny to think that if he had come on your show, that YouTube video probably never would have existed, and instead he would have talked about it on your show. So.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was too late, too unsophisticated. I was unsophisticated enough not to realize that he was going to need some kind of voice, even though he didn't want to have a voice after he found the treasure. So. No, I could have been better at that as a...
Tough to judge, It's hindsight.
Yeah. What's one misconception you think people often have about modern treasure hunts? And I'm categorizing them all together.
The vast majority of people out there, I don't think maybe even know that they exist. And I think just the anecdotal experience that I've had is, people will find out, and maybe in the beginning they'll give you a bit of a side eye or just kind of a confused glance. But for certain personalities, I think can suck you in pretty quickly. And there, I think, are a lot of what I'd say converts, or people that had previously had no idea what this concept even is, and just kind of go head over heels and dive in and enjoy every moment of it. So I think that's pretty cool.
I was always surprised about visiting Santa Fe, and I'd bring up the Fenn treasure and how many people, the vast majority of people I spoke to had no idea what was going on. even though he had been a gallery owner in Santa Fe.
Yeah, it's very interesting to me.
Do you have any estimate on how many people are looking for your treasure?
Hi. Yeah, I mean, I get asked that from time to time. So we're planning to do a get together in March called Seekers Summit, March 27th and 28th in Tucson. And
With Emma and Jam? Is that
Yeah,
their?
that's Emma and Jam's event. They're
Mhm.
running it, and I'm one of the participants, and it's a non-denominational kind of treasure hunt creator event, if you will. So any creator out there who'd like to be involved, contact Emma and Jam. I'm sure they'd be more than happy to include you. But that's really the forum I was planning on divulging very accurate statistics. But I think in the interim, at the risk of being slightly off, there's a lot of different signals that I get, whether it's emails, social media, anecdotal discussions, talking to Debbie at the bookstore where people have pinned their names on the map where they're from. They traveled accordingly. You have to kind of bring all those data points together. So it's not just like a function of, oh, well, there were these number of books sold, so it must be this number of people searching. That's clearly not the case. It's actually kind of funny that the number's a little bit larger than I anticipated. But my best guess, just based on everything, total, certainly above active searchers, above 10,000 that have actually gone and searched. I wouldn't say it's over 100,000, so it's between those two numbers.
Well, it's not quite a year old yet, so that's a pretty good number for a year.
Yeah.
So do you have your own version of the Collected Works bookstore, either locally or in Dillon?
Yeah, so my mother went to high school with the woman, Debbie, who owns, it's called The Bookstore in Dillon, Montana. And, she runs a fantastic place, and she's a fantastic person. And I think that's probably the closest equivalent that I have to a Collected Works. And, they really bent over backwards in terms of accommodating the masses that came in, and when we had the event up in Dillon, the book signing, I think the official number was somewhere around 1,800 people that showed up. And, to a small town the size of Dillon, that was quite the surprise, I think, to everybody, myself included. But yeah, I think the bookstore is the place. She's, if you're looking to buy a book, I highly recommend you buy it through Debbie. She's in a position where I think she hopefully still has some in stock that are signed, if you're into that sort of thing. But it's good to support the local bookstores.
I haven't followed. I have one of the first editions. Have there been follow-on editions, or you're still good with the first?
Yeah. So I wanted, what was important to me is the book was as accurate as it could be, and so I maintain an errata page where if somebody writes in and they find a mistake, I will correct it on the errata page. And so there were, as any book, a number of mistakes that were noted on the errata page. And I felt like it got to a point where, okay, it's starting to stabilize. Now's a good time to do a second printing. So it's not really what I call a full-on second edition. It's basically, fixing some minor mistakes throughout the book. And, it was funny. I started thinking about that a little bit. The level of detail that is given, or scrutiny that's given to a treasure hunting book, is probably more so than maybe any other type of book on the planet. And so the chance for someone to find mistakes in the book, I think, are naturally higher because of that extra scrutiny. But that being said, I feel like it has really stabilized. There's probably a few emails that I haven't gone through yet where people have mentioned maybe some small things that need correction, but for the most part, I think it's stabilized. So to answer your question, there's a first printing and second printing, and the only difference is some error correction.
At this point, what part of the Hunt's design are you most proud of?
I think the part that I'm most proud of will be most prevalent after the find. and that is the verification system that's put in place. And I'm sure that there's the chance for a mistake, but I hope that it sets a precedent or another foundation for how future verifiable treasure hunts should be constructed.
Well, that's exciting to look forward to.
Yeah.
If someone watching tonight is quietly thinking about creating their own hunt someday, what's the one responsibility you'd want them to fully understand before they start?
Oh my gosh, it's hard to choose just one.
Well, give them as much. I'm a little bit ahead, so give them as much advice as you want.
Yeah, I mean, there are many things. I mean, one is that you need to be prepared in all aspects of your life, because people will dig and they will try and find anything and everything to latch onto, whether or not to use it for leverage or otherwise. You need to decide up front what kind of treasure hunt creator you're going to be. Are you going to be the person who has put so much thought and diligence in it that you can lay it out and walk away and just say, this is what it is? Or are you going to have some level of involvement? And if so, how much is that going to be, and to what capacity? You need to think a lot about the legal implications. You need to think a lot about just the logistics of hiding a treasure. It sounds simple on page, but when you actually go and execute it, it can be a lot harder than it sounds. And I think, especially when it gets to a certain value or above, people will go to great lengths to try and figure out where you were when you were there, and reverse engineer things. And so, to even to travel in the United States truly anonymously and privately is a massive feat.
Mhm.
There are so many hurdles. And so if you're serious about it, there are many sacrifices that are necessary in order to ensure that privacy and anonymity while you execute and hide it. I could go on for quite a long time, sorry, but there are a lot of things that you need to consider. And it's also just the post-find experience. I kind of see these high-level stages to a treasure hunt. There's the planning stage, there's the execution stage of hiding, but the world doesn't know it yet. And then there's the announcement, then there is the actual treasure hunt itself, and then there is post-find.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, if you look at most of the modern treasure hunts, the biggest risk is typically a post-find. And so I think there are just a lot of lessons to learn there. I actually, at some point, I wrote a paper about a theory of treasure hunting and how you could actually put some kind of boring mathematical constructs in place in order to make it better. I haven't released it yet. At some point, I ended up sending it into a journal, but I don't know if they've even reviewed it yet or something. Maybe at some point I'll put it on the website or something. I didn't want to put it in the book because I felt like, it might be a little overwhelming for some people, and it's not very approachable. It's more of like a core research paper, and a lot of technical terms and boring mumbo jumbo in it. So I might publish it at some point, but there's a lot to consider. We'll say that.
Well, if you ever need anybody to review it for errata, please send it to me.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that.
All right, I'm at my last question, and I've made it before our 1 hour time limit. I'm very grateful for that. But I do want to spend a couple of minutes talking about the ASI, because you asked about it. Last question. If there is one thing you hope searchers take away from this experience, regardless of outcome, what is it?
The experience of the interview?
No, the experience of your treasure hunt.
Oh.
If there is one thing you hope searchers take away from the treasure hunt experience, regardless of outcome, what is it?
I think that if you've been out searching, you've had an adventure and you reflect on it, don't lose that feeling, whether it's wonder or captivation or maybe something that you might have lost from your youth. That's a pretty powerful thing, and I think the world needs more of that. And so I would urge people to remind themselves how they felt in that setting, on the verge of a great discovery, and think about how maybe you can contribute to the world to give people something in return that might be similar to that experience because it was so valuable to you.
I remember doing an AGK show mid treasure hunt, probably around 2017, 2018, on filling up a 5-gallon bucket with water and explaining to people, this is how heavy Forrest claims his treasure weighs and why he had to make 2 trips. How many 5-gallon buckets does your treasure weigh?
We'd have to do a little off the cuff math here, but the entirety of the treasure is about, I think I mentioned 60 pounds. So it's not light, and it's certainly more than 1 5-gallon bucket. So
if it's 60 pounds, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We only have a little bit of time left, and I'll give you that time. I agreed with you that I'd go an hour, but you mentioned when we were first talking that you had seen our show on the AGK AGK Solvability Index, and you had some comments on it, and I'd love to hear those comments.
Yeah. I mean, first off, I thought that was a remarkable idea. I really like the concept of having some sort of scoring or index system that helps guide people toward a treasure hunt that would make sense for them, and whether it's physical limitations or just their interests in general. That's really cool. And I think one aspect of that index was how much time are you spending boots on the ground and being out there, and that's the part that I don't know enough about John Collins Black's treasure to say how much time he truly expects you to be in the wilderness and searching for it. But I think that's kind of to my uncertain knowledge, that might be an unanswered question for his treasure hunt. And for mine, it's there certainly is a component of being boots on the ground, but not to the point of doing the drudgery of grid searching or anything like that. And so, I think that every treasure hunt creator has to have that balance. I think the only way you could truly have an armchair treasure hunt, I guess, would be, you solve something and you come up with an answer where you don't leave your armchair, or you don't leave it until, you have, say, an exact GPS coordinate. Those are probably like at one extreme, in terms of how much time you're going to spend outdoors versus, Forrest, which was actually a lot of outdoor time. And so I like to think that mine lands more in the middle, or maybe even slightly more armchair, not all the way. You need to be out in the woods. But yeah, I'd love to see how the index computes. If you have the opportunity to talk to JCB and kind of get some clarity there and see what the index says, I'd be curious to see.
I'm actually going to use it as a reason to try and convince him to come on the program so we can have a very similar interview.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
I've got some questions for him too, but it piqued my curiosity from an analyst's perspective. I'm sure it piques yours from the engineering perspective, because it kind of travels up that little side of our brain. So,
well, it's a great idea. I think who hasn't seen the show, I urge you to go and see Toby's show about the ASI, because I think it's a neat rubric for treasure hunts.
So before I let you go, I want to say thank you very much for joining me tonight. And any last words before we close out the session, Justin?
No, I appreciate your time, Toby, and thanks for having me on the show.
I'm grateful. I'm very grateful that you agreed to join me tonight, and I hope the questions did justice to your treasure hunt and you as an individual, because I have a great deal of respect for you. And I can't tell you how pleased I was when I saw that I knew it was going to be, when I saw that you had created a treasure hunt, I knew how good it was going to be. Because I know what you personally could do with it. So thanks very much.
Well,
For the
don't
rest
judge
of
it
you,
till it's found.
I'm sure it's going to be fine. For those of you that joined us tonight, I hope you got out of this show what you wanted. We did our best to make sure it was a good and thoughtful conversation, and I think that's easy when you have a guest like Justin. We're going to close out here, and I expect that at some point we'll probably publish a transcript so that you have access to that as well. All right. Justin, stay through the outro, and we can say our good nights. Okay.
Sounds great.
Good night, you all. Thanks for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us for this conversation.
No foul. Or if it's something you want to address at Seeker Summit, then maybe we'll dive into, or we'll leave that for Tucson. So, all right, here we go. Now that BTME is coming up on 1 year, what has surprised you most about how the hunt has unfolded?
Oh, golly. I think more than anything, just how much it's grown. I really had it in my mind that it was going to be this niche thing. I mean, when the documentary first started to air, or rather when it was first being filmed, I don't even think there was a buyer. I never imagined it would be on something like Netflix. And even when it was on Netflix, I just didn't think it was going to be as popular as it became. So I think more than anything, it's just the growth in the community, and you certainly see all these, for lack of a better term, sub communities that spring up, that all kind of have their own unique style and bring their own fun to the mix. So it's been a lot of interesting things to witness along the way.
Very good, very good. Megan?
If you were a seeker for your treasure, what question would you ask yourself as a hunter?
Oh gosh. Knowing what I know.
Knowing what we know.
I think that'd probably be a good question for Seeker Summit.
Fair enough. Fair
Fair.
enough.
So we have the map on the website. If you had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, how important it is to have that map to find the treasure, what would you rate it?
I'd have to put some real thought into like a numerical rating, but I would say it's generally useful for a couple of different reasons.
You want to talk about those reasons?
Maybe another time.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. Okay, we love how much you're engaged with the community, but do you feel sometimes that your level of interaction with the community has unintentionally made BTME harder or more confusing?
Oh boy. I mean, there's certainly two kind of opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of engagement. There's zero engagement, or maybe more like I've done. And my intent all along is to provide additional clarity, but I think the biggest risk are situations where I don't have time to thoughtfully sit down and craft a response, preferably in writing. And I think in those situations, especially, there's always the opportunity that even though the intent is to provide clarity, it could provide the opposite and kind of muddy the waters. I think about over the course of the year, coming up on a year, all the different questions that have been asked in the forums and so forth. And, I'd be hard pressed to think of something where, I provided inaccurate information. I think it's all been accurate, even the off the cuff stuff. But there's likely been at least a few times where I probably would have chosen a different wording or semantics if I were to have spent more time crafting a real answer as opposed to something that was off the cuff, sort of like we're doing here. So that's the risk you take by indulging in listening to me and in the various forums. Yeah.
Okay, let me follow up on that real quick. Is there anything that you would want to clarify from other interviews or Q&As, or take back, perhaps?
No, I don't think so. And I think even just the exercise of trying to clarify further might make things worse. Not, I mean, I don't know if worse is the right word, but make it more ambiguous. So I'm actually pretty happy with where things stand there. So status quo.
Okay, fair enough.
Which part of your personality influenced the poem the most? The part of you who is an engineer or the part of you who's an enthusiastic explorer?
I'd say the part of me that embraces childlike wonder the most.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of talk about the checkpoint. So I've got a couple questions about that for you tonight. Is it something that we are going to physically see and know that it's the checkpoint when we get there?
That's a good Seeker Summit question. Yeah, sorry.
No, we kind of knew that was a risk that we were taking today by bumping up so close to Seeker Summit. So we totally understand. We're good. No hard feelings, J Money. You're good with us. So um, let's talk about modern tools. Obviously you want this to be a more AI proof boots on the ground, but do you feel like tools such as Google Earth, AI, et cetera, are helping people with the hunt or actually leading them further away from your intended path?
I think it's a bit of both. I've certainly seen cases where, I mean, using some of the what we consider basic technology these days, like Google Maps, can be beneficial. But also, uh, I think some people might have taken that to an extreme, to the point where you see patterns where there are none. Or, I mean, I can think of kind of an extreme example where a few people, or more than a few people, have actually sent me emails showing, very, very specific foliage shapes that are believed to be clues. I mean, clearly foliage is going to change over the course of the year, and heaven forbid this goes on for more than years. Well, I've had it in my mind since this began that um, it would be kind of an accelerated version of what Forrest Fenn had done, in the sense that his treasure hunt grew organically over the course of many years. And, if you think about like even the first 5 years of the treasure hunt, it wasn't terribly popular. It really started to gain momentum in the latter part. And this is kind of like a treasure hunt on steroids, in the sense that Netflix has catapulted it into something where many people have dove in headfirst on day one. And so in terms of comparison, if I were to force it, I'd say that today is sort of like year 9 of the Fen hunt. And so, uh, I can imagine the perspective that treasure hunters might be being like that deep into it from day one, and us coming up on the year mark. So, yeah, as I think many people have said, there's a fine line between, obsession and something that may or may not be more healthy. So I think it's just around, how long does this go on before, it becomes something that has the potential to, um, well, cause more people a deeper obsession. I like to think that it's a great hobby for people, and I think it is for the vast majority of everybody. I think that's probably the only lingering worry that I have, is that maybe over time, certainly for some personality types, it could become something more. And I don't think anybody wants that unhealthiness. So that's the only thing that gives me reservation about it lasting too long.
That makes sense. And Megan, he's talking about you, people.
He probably is.
How do you
So
know?
I
just
know
a
Megan.
follow-up question about that. You said it feels like you're going into like year 9 of the Forest Fen hunt on year 1. Does that mean that somebody's getting close to finding this treasure?
I think I mean, if there have been more than at least a few people that have been fairly close to finding the treasure. And so, um, it's hard to quantify. There's a lot of different sources out there, but yeah, I think that's fair to say.
With the Forrest Fenn treasure, he said he regretted putting the bracelet in the box. Is there any part of your treasure that you regret putting in that you wished you had for yourself? And if not regret, just something you wish that you had for yourself, a favorite?
I put each item into the treasure container intentionally, and I did it with a lot of thought. So there's nothing that I regret putting in there, but there are things that I put in there that have a very deep meaning to me. And so, in a way, it felt like it's kind of like passing on a little piece of what I felt was important to whoever finds this. And it's, I mean, those types of things most of them are not of great value. It's more of significance than anything else. But no, I don't regret putting them in there.
Did you place the checkpoint there yourself, or was it something that was already there?
Oh, that's a potential for Seeker Summit, but no,
Okay.
not until then.
And then just a little follow-up to that. Are you aware of anyone that has been to the checkpoint?
I'm at least aware of people that have been close.
Okay.
Okay. See, we've had this conversation about what the checkpoint could be, and I envisioned that you had made some billboards up with you and Tucker, maybe like a faux humane society advertisement or something like that. So we're looking for something with your face on it is what we're looking for. So because that's when I'll absolutely have zero doubt. If I see your face out there somewhere on a billboard or something, I'll have zero doubt. So that's about the only way I think I'll have zero
It's
doubt.
an option. It's an option.
Hey,
I'm
you gotta think
thinking
about
after
that.
this interview, there's going to be like a wall with J Money was here spray painted on it.
For the J Money tags. I know, exactly. Justin, do you feel like the community is overcomplicating the poem or missing something very simple in the process?
I think that's the natural inclination for any puzzle where you don't understand the solution. I mean, you look at all different types of puzzles, both mental and physical, and if you know the answer, it seems so simple. And then you look, and somebody else looks at it, and they try many different things that you never even thought to try, that are just vastly beyond what it was meant to be. So yeah, I mean, there's certainly people out there that have overcomplicated many things. And then there are other aspects that I'm just slightly surprised at in terms of how simplistic people have taken it, at surface value. So I think it's probably a little bit of both, but certainly weighted toward many people that have taken things too deep or looked too far.
Okay. Conversely, have you looked at any solves and went, wow, I haven't really thought about that. That would be an interesting fit that could play well in this.
Actually, yes, there have been several emails that I've received where it was not at all what I intended. But reading through it, it's like, wow, that's actually quite poetic or quite fitting. And I wish I had thought of that, So, yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you. Thanks for reading my emails.
I think
What
those are the
Bruce
ones you
didn't
can
say
take
is Bruce was one of the ones that went like way over analyzing it, is what he didn't say.
We got this question a couple of times, so it must be important to quite a few people. Did you intentionally place small trinkets or any objects to help build confidence so people knew that they were on the right path?
Uh, I mean, there is something along the way that will help significantly.
Is that the checkpoint?
I have not specified.
Interesting. You thought a long time about that one. That one really.
So the next question is, would you like to specify?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Well, very good. That's interesting. Okay, and trinkets. I'll have to be looking for those. All right.
All right. So today there was a announcement about a new milestone coming up for Seeker Summit with our 1111 goal. Is there a significance to the number 1111? What made you pick that number?
What made me pick that number? I had about 38 seconds between two calls, and I had to pick a number, and it just felt right. That was really the extent of it.
Okay,
You
so the
haven't seen
people
the
reading
chatter
into
yet,
it, and yeah, there's people already that are like, it's the clue's at 11 minutes and 11 seconds of the episode, so don't read into it too much, is what you're telling
Don't
us.
don't bother. No, it
Okay.
was just the easiest thing to type.
Well, good question and good clarification, because you've stirred a lot. You kicked the hornet's nest with the
Oh,
11
goodness.
11. So you know how that works,
No
right?
matter what number I chose, it
Yeah,
was going to cause something. So
it
yeah.
didn't matter. It didn't matter. You're right. You're right. Oh, well, we appreciate you clarifying that. So we're not chasing the 11 11 all day long and trying to figure out what that means. So thank you. That's helpful. Justin, if BTME were a game of hot and cold, where would you say the community is? Are they still cold? Are they getting warmer? Are they burning up? And would you be surprised if the treasure isn't found in the next year?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it depends on your definition of community. Like there are many people that are searching for the treasure that don't partake in, a lot of the social media aspects. And so there are many communities that have formed within the BTME world, if you will, whether it's Discord, Facebook, or a combination thereof, um, Reddit, and so forth. And so, I have been busy enough lately with other things that I wouldn't say that I've lost touch, but I don't have the same pulse that I did, say, a month ago. But I think each of those communities, groupthink does tend to rule the day. And I think sometimes that can be a detriment. And so, if I look at each of them, I wouldn't say that there's, to the best of my knowledge, any community out there that is like way off in left field or anything like that. But I would also say that I'm not aware of any community that is like, as a group think, uber close either. So somewhere in between. I don't know if that helps or not.
No, something here that
It's not good. Not good.
question, are you tired of treasure hunters asking you?
Tired?
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Do we need to pay special attention to the 1652 oak tree shilling? It seems to be pretty important to you. Some folks have asked about that.
Yeah, so I don't know if I've ever mentioned the backstory on that. Maybe I have, so I apologize if I repeat myself. But uh, the 1652 oak tree shilling, actually, the original one that I had actually came from my grandfather, and it was from his collection. And it it was very special to me just because of how I came to learn about it and where it came from. And it turned out that that coin was counterfeit.
Oh,
And I was just heartbroken when I found that out. And I never had the heart to tell him, my grandfather, that it was counterfeit. And so it bothered me a lot over the years. And I had just said to myself back then that one day, like if I ever have the means, I will get one, but it'll be the real thing. And I actually really wanted to do that before my grandfather passed, and it didn't work out. But I did end up getting it, and that's the significance of it. It's kind of a little bit of the backstory.
no, that you gave when the technical clue was discovered, you let the community know that that was found. Are you going to let the community know when the checkpoint is discovered, or if the checkpoint is discovered?
Um, if I come to learn that the checkpoint has been discovered, I would likely announce that it has been discovered, but I would not divulge what it is until after the treasure is found.
Fair enough. Okay. Good answer. Good answer. This is for me. Is a gazebo a structure or a building?
That's being a building. I could be off base.
Very good. Thank you for answering that. Speaking of the rules and man-made and things like that, I know that you spend a lot of time in the book talking about loopholes. Maybe not a lot of time, but there definitely was some chapters. Are there any loopholes built into the rules?
None that are intentional. I mean, I think there's one that maybe arguably somebody could quibble about. But beyond that, no. No, the rules are really meant to be cut and dry.
Is there a poem solved where there's more than one clue with a man-made implication?
Is there a poem solved where there's more than one clue with a man-made implication?
Maybe that's not very clear.
Yeah, I'm thinking through this.
Okay.
I want to make sure I answer this accurately. So I'm willing to answer this. Just I want to think a little bit more about it before I.
Well, to kind of another part of that, can a hunt item be displayed on the outside of a man-made building or structure? Maybe not inside a structure, but on the outside.
I don't want to limit that, so I would say it's always a possibility.
Is the BTME logo a clue?
What I can say is that I designed the logo intentionally, and it has some meaning.
Not translate in the way that us mere mortals are able to understand. We know you're a super smart guy, engineering guy, math guy. Is this going to be too hard for us?
I'm probably a lot worse at math than you might guess. No, so when I designed this, I think Megan, you might ask earlier this question about, what I would embrace most is in terms of designing the treasure hunt, and it is that childlike wonder. And so, at least in my mind, I like to think that somebody of, even a pretty young age would be able to solve this if they put their mind to it and figured out the right stuff and the right context and so on. So, it's nothing that requires any sort of, college degree or really even any high school diploma or anything like that. I tried to make it as approachable as I could.
Okay. Now, having said that, would people that maybe have a background in fishing or hunting or hiking or outdoorsy type
It's almost impossible to design something where there's zero specialized knowledge in anything in the world that would, give somebody a leg up. So I'm hesitant to say that it wouldn't help, but probably not as much as people might think.
Okay, fair enough. Are you willing to rule out digging and the treasure being buried?
Yeah, I think if you know where the treasure's at, it's not going to matter either way. So it's not something I'm willing to rule out at this time.
Okay, interesting. Okay. Have you ever had to go check on the box for any weather conditions?
No, I haven't. At this stage, certainly I'd be reticent or very cautious about doing anything like that. So I have no plans in the future to ever return to the exact location of the treasure.
Okay, because obviously you're familiar with Posey Tracker, where we have scouts on the ground following your every move, exactly where you're going at all times, right?
You don't know how late you are.
I guess my question would be, would you do this again?
It's been a very unique experience, and I think I feel that I can relate to Forrest Fenn on a different level than I could ever. And it was easy for me to sit back and pontificate and think, oh, well, this is what it's going to be like. But it's an entirely different thing to experience it firsthand. And there are certainly still, family members that are close to me that, there are times where they might not realize the gravity of the situation. And, they will certain actions, like totally unintentional, that can at times exacerbate the situation. So no, I don't regret it. Would I do it again? I think the honest answer is I don't know yet. I want to follow this through to completion and see what the end result is. I think it's true to say that many treasure hunts end poorly after it's found, and so I think that's really the real, yeah, that is the litmus test here to make sure this is all kind of airtight, if you will. And depending on how that goes, I could see a future where an additional treasure hunt could happen.
Oh, you got to hear first, an additional treasure hunt from Justin. That's what I think, Megan has speculated that they talk about the two letters in the box there, one for the steward and what's the other, the bombshell one. So that's what we're maybe thinking that might be part two of that. So, yeah.
Stranger things have happened. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Oh gosh, I had a follow-up there and I just lost it, but that's all right. I have other questions for you. Do the illustrations in the book have clues in them?
That building clues into things that you have to convey to another person is a challenging thing. So a good example would be the hint that was found in the song. The only reason that I was able to do that is because I had, a deep level of control in the final product that was produced.
Hmm.
And, the illustrations are challenging in that regard because, it's not like you just call up the illustrator and say, hey, I want all of these very specific aspects built into an illustration because they're important. That's kind of a tip off. And so, I had a lot of direction that I gave to the illustrator in terms of what I wanted. But at the end of the day, she had the final choice in terms of how it was rendered. So I'm purposely not answering the question directly.
Sure.
But what I will say is that the illustrator, she has no special knowledge. It's not like, I told her very specific things or anything like that.
Fair enough. Okay, great. I remember my question. Going back to like where you talked about how your hunt wraps up whenever it comes to fruition. How important is it for you that people look at the solve and go, that makes sense. I understand it. Logically, I can go point A, point B, point B, C, all the way through. Not do I like it, not do I agree with it, but is it important for you that, reasonable person is a very loose definition these days, but a reasonable person looks at it and goes, I understand that. That makes sense to me. I think I can see how that works. Is that important to you?
I mean, I think within reason. I mean, it would be strange to hold a treasure hunt where, a very small minority even understood in retrospect what it even means. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that is important. And it's like, well, a good example would be a Sudoku puzzle, right? Like once it's solved, anybody can do it and look at the math and say, well, yeah, it's definitely correct. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And then at the opposite end of the spectrum, if you tell somebody to go, jump in a lake, and then it's like, well, there's 12 million lakes in the world. Like, which one are you talking about? Oh, well, I meant that one over in Norway, right? I mean, that's kind of the opposite end of it. Like, how would anybody have ever known it was Norway? And so I think there's somewhere in there, there's a middle ground. And I like to think that when this is over, people will have more understanding, and the average person would be able to say, okay, seems reasonable.
Okay. The only thing I got out of that whole thing, Justin, was that we need to go jump in a lake, is what I've heard. The jump in a lake is definitely a clue, and we need to jump in a lake. All right. Can you tell me which lake it is? Blink twice for Lake Minnetonka.
You sound like a treasure hunter. Yeah.
This is more schematics that people, and I've heard people say this, and I think it might be helpful for them to hear you say it. A lot of people, when they say, or like content creators say, people have been within 200 feet of this or that or the other thing. they want to argue that well maybe it's just random people walking around hiking on a trail. It's not searchers. Can you confirm that when you say someone is within 200 feet of the checkpoint or people are close, you're talking about actual searchers? That's just to clarify that. Is that a fair way to put that? I know people get wrapped up in the wording of that sometimes. I just wanted to clarify that.
I mean, it's true to say that there have been at least a few searchers that have been uh, quite close. Uh, yeah, quite close.
Okay, but they are searchers. They're not just random, because people will take that as you saying two
They are
people have been
searchers.
with that. Okay, perfect. That was just a clarification point there. The forced fen hunt required a river crossing to get to the treasure box. Does yours require any kind of river crossing, wading through water?
I have not specified.
I'm giving you the opportunity, Justin. That's what this is all about.
I appreciate the opportunity. Noted.
Okay, well, okay. All right, fine, J Money. I see you. Are you concerned that someone not looking for the treasure is going to find it?
I think in the broad spectrum of things that are concerning to me, it's lower on the totem pole.
Okay, how low on the totem pole? Just kidding. At the bottom? I don't know. Okay, these two questions are for me. Did you ever search for dinosaur in Dinosaur National Monument for the Forrest Fenn treasure?
Hmm. For the forest fen treasure, no.
You didn't. Okay, well that's disappointing. That's just me. Sorry. And Megan kind of prompted this question for me after me telling her a story about my moose encounter while searching for your treasure. Is a moose the animal that you're referring to that you didn't expect to see, but you saw?
I hate to bust people's bubbles, but I've seen many moose over the years,
Dang
so
it.
that is not the animal in question.
All right.
Do you think if someone were to come up with the correct animal, then they would be able to fine tune their solve? Would that narrow it down if they figured out what animal you saw?
It certainly wouldn't hurt.
And what animal is that, Justin?
How nonchalant of you, yes.
Try, that's right. Wouldn't be doing my job here, anyway. So, Justin, hey, that pretty much wraps up our rapid fire. We got a couple minutes left. Jaws, Megan, any last questions that have popped up for you for Justin? I know we've had a list that we wanted to go through.
I think we got everything on the list.
Perfect. Perfect.
Wow.
Justin, how much do you want to talk at all about Seeker Summit? Anything that coming up that you want to let us know about, or surprises that you want to give us a bombshell that we can use to boost our numbers to get up to 200 viewers instead of 100? So,
Oh gosh. I mean, I think it's going to be a great time for everybody. And I think the total attendee count is a little up in the air. My perspective on this is I think we're going to be right on the edge in terms of whether or not we can break that world record. I mean, I think it'd be an exciting thing for America to be able to hold the title for the Guinness Treasure Hunt record. But I don't think it's a prerequisite to having fun there. I think Emma's been doing a fantastic job in terms of drumming up marketing and so on. And I've gotten some messages about this. Something to the effect that it seems to be kind of like the core focal point of the treasure hunt right now. And I suppose to a certain degree it is because there are so many people that are making travel arrangements and so on to be there. But I certainly haven't lost sight of the treasure hunt in general. And I think Seeker Summit is actually one of those events that, beyond the map's edge aside, I really think that the concept of treasure hunting or modern day treasure hunting will actually become more popular over time. And I like to think a venue, whether it's TreasureCon or Seeker Summit or any of the other ones that prop up, I think are going to grow. And so I like kind of being in on the ground floor of that and seeing it kind of take off. And that's the other question that I've got is, why are there commercial aspects to the treasure hunting convention that's happening at Seeker Summit. And, the answer to that is that, well, we needed funding. And, I'd normally be very concerned around mixing commercial interests with something like Beyond the Map's Edge. And I realized how ironic that is, given that it was on Netflix. But, the reason that I'm personally okay with this is because it's for all treasure hunt creators. It's not just this Beyond the Map's Edge thing. And I think that there's an opportunity to pull in the right sponsors so that the event can be all that it can, all that it should be. And so there are some sponsorship implications to it, but I certainly don't see it being in a position where it's overshadowing the purity of treasure hunting. And I think if it gets to that point, then that would be a more concerning discussion. But I would love to hear feedback after this Seeker Summit, mainly because, or not just because the treasure hunt part might be disappointing, but but just the honest reaction. I mean, I think it's something that is a good case study, and it's something we can build on in future years. And it's not something I'm running; it's something that Treasure Hunt with us and Froggy and Jenny Kyle and so on are all putting together. But I think it's something that can grow over the years and become a real staple of a hobby.
We did it. A little bit.
A little bit?
That means you got a better chance of getting real clues.
That's what I was hoping for. We have Howard grabbing us a book, just in case we need it. So he may just run up here and hand it to us at any moment. Is that your water?
It is.
Thank goodness. Okay. I think that the best part of, well, not the best part, there's so many best parts, but one of the most unique and coolest parts of this event was the Q&A with the votes. So now, well, look at that, the delivery system is here. So now we're gonna start with the number one requested question from everybody here with the most ups, which means people wanted it. Has anyone located or correctly identified the bride?
I'll answer this, but before I do, there's actually somebody I want to wish happy birthday to. Hayden, if you're out there, Hayden. Happy birthday to you.
You sure you don't want to sing? I mean, I'll stop.
I don't want people to leave early. Has anyone correctly identified?
Has anyone located or correctly identified the bride?
Yes.
Oh, man. Don't you guys wish you'd added a little bit to that so I could do a follow-up? Here's the follow-up. Who? No, just kidding. I agreed to not ask follow-ups, but maybe at the end. He's known for being a little uncanny. The second most asked question was, does timing have anything to do with finding the treasure? For example, do you have to be at a specific spot at a specific time of day during any point following the poem in order to find the treasure? 20 people would like to know. Okay, one more time. Does timing have anything to do with finding the treasure? For example, do you have to be at a specific spot at a specific time of day during any point following the poem in order to find the treasure?
That's an oddly specific question.
It seems very, very specific to me too.
What I will say is that the element of time, if it wasn't already obvious through the Netflix series, is important.
That's fair. I mean, I think it makes sense. You did touch a clock, right?
Oh, speaking of time, there's actually something I want to clear up.
Oh, goodness.
I have to get my notes here. One moment.
You're going to lose your coin, though. Don't lose your coin.
Thank you. I'll sit right there.
Okay.
Okay, speaking of time, in the Netflix series, clearly there are some times shown. And I feel that there were a few times that slipped in that were not by design. And so I'm just going to eliminate those specific times. to make things what I hope is clearer.
I think Jam's going to fall out of his chair.
There are 2 times specifically that don't matter. And it's okay if you're off by a minute or so. I know it's a little hard to tell on that clock. So at approximately 4:02 p.m., that does not matter.
Okay.
And at approximately 5:26 a.m. or p.m., that does not matter either. So I hope that helps.
I mean, how could it not, right?
And I also have some updated statistics that people may or may not be interested in.
You know I love a good statistic.
So I think the last time I sent this out, boy, I don't recall when it was. It was pretty early in the hunt. And I posted some stats, and I'll read them off here for a refresher, and we'll talk about what they're at now. The number of people that have asked me to verify their solution before heading out, that was 24,101 people. And the updated number as of last night, let me see if I can find the note. Where did I put that note?
Like a whole new treasure hunt.
My goodness. There it is. It is now at 277,428.
Oh my gosh.
The next statistic, the number of people that have conveyed to me they are 100% sure they know where the treasure is. To be fair, I appreciate the confidence. That's really cool. It was 13,388 people. And as of last night, it is now 119,644.
Half of those people have also told me.
The next one was bribe attempts.
Oh,
That stood at 32. We are now at 1,221. I appreciate the effort, you guys. I mean, a lot of enthusiasm. Blackmail attempts. That was at 3. We are now at 80.
oh wow.
Again, valiant effort. Valiant effort. Tracking attempts. This is a new category that didn't exist. That is at 19.
Oh wow.
Search and rescue operations. Unfortunately, people that have required search and rescue assistance. That was at 1. And we've grown a little bit since then. It's at 16.
People, we're smarter than this.
I think it's exuberance, and I can relate. So, anyway, updated stats. There you have it. Yeah.
There you go. Well, we're not going to bribe you today. We're just going to ask nicely. How about that?
I appreciate the honesty.
Oh, I'm here for you. At which stanza does boots on the ground become absolutely required? Meaning, no amount of at-home research or mapping can substitute for being physically on site. We're going to go to the book for this one. Sure, he's going to be reading that. Let me read to you. At which stanza does boots on the ground become absolutely required? Meaning no amount of at-home research or mapping can substitute for being physically on site. It's kind of a big one, and it looks like he might answer it.
This is a very specifically worded question. One more time. I want to make sure I get it right.
You can have it as many times. I'll keep reading it. At which stanza, that means paragraph, just so you know, does boots on the ground become absolutely required? Meaning no amount of at-home research or mapping can substitute for being physically on site.
Stanza 4.
Write that down, Jam. Okay. That was huge. Is the checkpoint a physical object that can be moved?
Yeah, I told myself tonight I'm going to try to not punt on any question.
Oh gosh, I hope. Woo!
This is, I'll say that it's not something you need to worry about.
Okay, you don't have to worry about it. But there was somewhere you said you were going to clarify the checkpoint on a recent interview. I think it was X Marks the Pod, wasn't it?
What specifically was I going to clarify? Refresh my memory.
You said, okay, I'll pull it up. Jim, text me. Okay. Is the something we find along the way something you placed there or something that was already there?
Both.
Oh my gosh, I love these answers. Sure. Is the something we find along the way something you placed there or something that was already there? Okay. Are the majority of the hunt items and locations located in the same state/county as the actual treasure location?
You know, I think about the Forrest Fenn treasure hunt and pretty much any treasure hunt, and it seems that it's almost like sports teams form. I'm Team Montana. I'm Team Wyoming. I'm Team New Mexico. I've always found that interesting. They are somewhat arbitrary lines on a map. So I would just generally be less concerned about the borders.
I mean, it is beyond the map's edge, right? That sounds like an edge. Okay, I understand the photographs in the book reflect your life and therefore provide general context. My question is, were any of the photographs, not illustrations, placed to function as explicit clues, meaning they contain specific, deliberate information meant to help solve or interpret the poem?
I think they are useful, yes.
Oh my gosh. I hope I'm not reading too quickly. I'm trying to enunciate a lot for you. I understand the photographs in the book reflect your life and therefore provide general context. My question is, were any of the photographs, not the illustrations, placed to function as explicit clues, meaning they contain specific, deliberate information meant to help solve or interpret the poem? Okay. Justin, you said, as hope surges clear and bright is the first actionable clue. You haven't specified, but what is the last actionable clue?
Let me check.
To the book.
See, I should have just bookmarked that page.
Does that book have a bookmark in the front? No?
No.
Okay, sorry.
Which stanza has the last
The
actionable
last
clue?
actionable clue. But what is the last actionable clue?
I don't want a cop-out answer. It does somewhat depend, and depending on your interpretation, it's either stanza 4 or 5.
Okay. Okay, I'll behave. Yeah. For the first time in my life. You said the first, oh, and I just read that. Did you make the container yourself?
It's probably more accurate to say that I made targeted and deliberate modifications.
Oh my gosh, these answers are so good. Okay. Is the number 42 relevant to finding the treasure?
I guess the short answer is yes.
That's a pretty short answer, and I like it. Has any searcher or searchers been in the small kitchen-sized area where the treasure is hidden?
To my uncertain knowledge, no.
Oh, okay. Has the container been correctly guessed, but the cipher just has not been solved correctly?
There have been people who have guessed what the container is correctly. Bravo.
Not you, Jam. You knew that was coming. Do you have the ability to view searchers if they are near the treasure?
I am going to punt on that question.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
no.
They want
Do you have the ability to view searchers if they are near the treasure? Punt. There you go. The first punt, boys and girls, that's a lot of questions answered so far. Does her face belong to the bride?
Does her face belong to the bride? That sounded like Sandal.
It did sound just like Sandal.
Depending on your interpretation, yes. But there are actually two different ways to interpret this, and the answer depends. So it's a no or a yes. I know that's a strange answer, but that is correct.
Way to confuse us, JP. Way to confuse us. So what I heard was yes, no, maybe so. Yeah. Okay. That work for you? Okay, perfect. So good at interpreting these words. Go ahead.
Actually, I'm going to revise. I think it's probably fair to just say yes there.
Yes. Oh, goodness. There you go. Okay. Are the place and the sacred space the same location?
Not necessarily.
Okay. Does return her face imply a physical rotation?
You guys are killing me here.
Don't you wish you didn't say that you were thinking about not punting earlier?
Repeat it one more time.
Okay. Does return her face imply a physical rotation?
Boy, that's a semantically challenging question.
Welcome to treasure hunting.
People might rake me over the coals for this one later. But the technically correct answer is yes.
Okay. Is the cipher contained in a single section of the book or across multiple sections?
Who says the cipher's in the book?
Oh, it's a good day. Do you need to move a rock or anything else to see the container? And would a flashlight be useful during the day?
Gosh, these are tricky questions.
We've gotten a lot better.
I mean, there's
We're
some
improving.
technicalities here that are a little, I guess, slightly nuanced. I mean, I suppose depending on the conditions, technically, yes, maybe a flashlight could be helpful. It's hard to say. I mean, that's a tough one. What was the other part?
Do you need to move a rock or anything else to see the container? And would a flashlight be useful during the day?
Something will need to be manipulated in order to see the treasure.
Oh. Are transitions between clues meant to represent movement across meaningful geographic separation, or are they simply conceptual steps within the same area?
One more time.
I was about to say, should I read that bad boy again? Are transitions between clues meant to represent movement across meaningful geographic separation, or are they simply conceptual steps within the same area?
This is another one of those questions that are toughly worded.
That's fair.
Gosh, I feel like I'm kind of hosed no matter how I answer this.
I wonder who that was.
I can't imagine. Thank you, Cousin Lori. I mean, each clue in the poem is not meant to convey great distance.
Oh, wow. Does the whole referenced in the poem correspond to a place that actually includes hole in its name, ergo Jackson Hole or Big Hole River?
That's an on-the-nose question.
Very specific.
I gotta punt that one. I'm so sorry.
Sometimes you got to punt. How many searchers have sent you a photo of the correct checkpoint?
0.
Okay, you mentioned there's another book that could help you find your treasure. Is that book your grandfather's memoir? If so, he speaks a lot about vantage points, overseeing people and places. Did you incorporate that into your hunt?
Did I incorporate vantage points into
That's a
my
great
hunt?
question about a question. What if I read it again?
Okay.
Let's do that. Okay, you mentioned there's another book that could help you find your treasure. Is that book your grandfather's memoir? That's really the first question of the two here.
That is a little too specific, so.
Okay, so then here's the fun follow-up. I just lost the question. Hold on. How could I lose a question when it's on the website? Found it. If so, he speaks a lot about vantage points, overseeing people and places. Did you incorporate that into your hunt?
Did I incorporate vantage points into my hunt? That's a weird one to answer too. I mean, there is I guess you could say, a vantage point involved, but it's not that any of the clues are necessarily talking about that vantage point.
Okay. I figured out why the question moved. It's because apparently I just up arrowed it.
Oh.
Like, how could it have moved?
You upvoted it.
I upvoted it, so it's good. Would a solver make more progress by searching for hidden thematic or symbolic rules governing the poem, or by treating it more like Forrest Fenn's poem, where carefully but largely literal interpretation of each line leads the way?
Probably roughly both in equal measure.
Okay.
I don't like that look.
If we don't hit 2,000.
I know where this is going.
What are the two
states did I
states
eliminate?
you would have eliminated?
Okay, first state. The treasure. The treasure is not in Colorado.
That's big.
And the second state. I was not prepared for this.
But in your gut, there's probably a state that would really help. that you'd feel so good tonight when you went to sleep about. And so would we.
All right. The treasure and all associated clues is not in Oregon.
Oh. If he just broke your heart, no, he didn't mean it. Okay?
I feel like it's time for comic relief. So I'm going to tell a short story.
Thank you.
And you can blame my cousin Lori for making
Is this
me
the
tell
story
this
you asked me for? Okay, never mind. I might have a question later. We're so excited for the possibility
here's
of
the
two
story.
stories.
Netflix was coming to film at my house, and it just so happened that within the prior month or so, as I was out of town, my sprinkler system died, and it was very hot. It was in Texas, and pretty much everything around my house perished. Almost nothing was spared, and the Netflix crew was still coming, and there was a very good chance that they were going to be filming outdoors around my house. And it was just kind of embarrassing, frankly. So I struggled with what to do about this, and I hatched this genius plan. And that plan consisted of, this actually exists, a biodegradable grass paint.
I've heard of it.
And so I whipped this up, and I thought, well, I just go out there and paint a section of the grass, because who does that, right? And so I whipped up it's like a pack you wear on your back, and kind of like a weed sprayer, and I go out there and spray it. But it was so hot out, and so I waited until like 2 o'clock in the morning. Plus, I really didn't want the neighbors seeing I'm painting my grass. That's the level of my vanity. And so I embarked on this 2-hour expedition to paint the grass. And it worked, right? And I had the flashlight out. I'm looking at this. And, wow, that looks really good. So I went back in feeling very proud of myself. And I heard a noise. And I realized that the sprinkler system that was fixed earlier that day had just turned on. And so with no hesitation, I pulled out my phone, and it's one of those Rachio systems, you can control it, and I hit the off button, and it just wasn't working. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm a sweaty mess in the middle of the night, all my biodegradable paint is washing away. And so I made a run for it, and I made run, and I came tearing out the front door, and okay, well, I was going to leave that tidbit out.
That actually was an important point. You should not have left that out.
I had removed my clothes, so I had my boxers on. And so I was in this full bore run, and for whatever reason in that moment, I completely forgot about the large oak tree branch that was right about head height. And I hit that thing hard, like face first, and kind of clothespin myself and on the ground. And it knocked me out for a few seconds, knocked the wind out of me. And I woke up and I looked like the Jolly Green Giant. I was covered in green paint, and the sprinklers were going on me, and I crawl over and turn it off. I'm like, what have I done? And I came back to the house, and I had this raging black eye. I mean, I couldn't even open one eye. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Netflix is going to be here in 9 hours. And I recall, if Jared, you're here, I think I sent a picture to Jared saying, would you mind if we reschedule? Which actually the timing ended up working out for a number of reasons, and we did end up rescheduling, so it was okay. But yes, that is the grass paint story. So there you go.
Do you still have that picture?
I have the picture of my black eye.
I
mean,
think he should post it on his face or on his website. I think that'd be fun.
well, stranger things have happened. We'll see.
Back to the fun and unbelievably uncomfortable questions. Are national parks ruled out?
Oh, I'm not gonna say yes or no to that. Sorry.
Okay. That just got bumped for some reason. Okay. The key to one direction lies in another. Does this relate to the azimuth?
No.
Oh. Lucky number 10 on the checkpoint questions. Is the checkpoint essentially to its core and finally connected, related to a topographic feature?
Wow. Read that one again.
I figured we were going to go for a double on that. Is the checkpoint essentially to its core and finally connected / related to a topographic feature?
Let me take a look at that.
Good luck.
And finally connected. That's really tricky wording. I'm not quite sure how to answer this. I mean, probably the most accurate answer, based on how I interpret that question, is yes, there is some implication there.
Okay. Can you tell us how you know a searcher was near the checkpoint? Follow up. Does it have to do, you want to, oh, I thought you were going to answer in the middle. I'm like, okay. Does it have to do with the technology or a similar concept as layer 5 via personal confession / contact or something else? Shall I read that 4 more times?
Yes, please.
Okay, good. Can you tell, I'm going to read the question and then I'll read the follow-up. Can you tell us how you know a searcher was near the checkpoint?
I'm not going to say the exact way, but there are a number of ways that people have conveyed to me where they're searching. That can be through email, it can be through Messenger, it can be through Discord. I can see it on a Facebook forum. I can see it in a number of different venues, and some additional avenues beyond that as well. And so, in one of those hemispheres or spheres, I have come to learn that at least, or there have been more than one person that have been close to the checkpoint.
The follow-up will help with this. Does it have to do with the technology or similar concept as layer 5 via personal confession / contact or something else?
It is true to say that layer 5 has some bearing on the treasure hunt.
Okay. How many searchers? Nope, that's what we've already asked that. It got moved down. Don't down arrow, guys.
They're messing with you.
I know, I'm like, don't you know I'm just trying to read like a big girl? Is there a specific, nope. No, I'm just messing myself up. Is there a significant clue visible if the treasure seeker is standing 15 feet away from where the treasure container is buried or hidden? Okay. Is there a significant clue visible if the treasure seeker is standing 15 feet away from where the treasure container is buried or hidden?
Tricky wording again. Boy.
We're becoming known for it.
The most accurate answer is no.
Okay. You're going to love this question, primarily because the answer is to date, we have sold 1,006 tickets between cash and the website. If we don't hit 11:11, what is the scene you would have eliminated from Golden Creed?
I actually feel like we kind of did this earlier, and that is the lawyer's office. Carl's, that whole scene, no intentional clues at all. That was just something that the crew did, the Netflix crew, Jared and so forth, and I had zero involvement and zero influence on that whole scene.
Excellent. I didn't think we were going to get that one. His realm, is he living or was he ever living?
That depends on your perspective.
Someday we're going to learn how to ask that question. When you rule out a state, does that mean it's ruled out for clues / stops along the way and or final location? Or would it only pertain to the final location?
That is an excellent question.
I'm going to read it again. Good job, Rogue. When you ruled out a state, does that mean it's ruled out for clues / stops along the way and or final location? Or would it only pertain to only the final location?
Who asked this question?
That would be Rogue.
Was it? Well, wherever you are, Rogue.
Back there.
Oh, okay, I see you. I'm glad you asked, and I don't want this to spin out of control in any way. So, when I say eliminate a state, I mean that you don't need to worry about it. Like, there are no clues in that state, there's no treasure in that state. It's complete elimination.
Oh, that's big. That's actually a big, big, big one, in my opinion. You've mentioned it took multiple trips to inconspicuously hide the treasure. Was this achieved in a single day or multiple days? Summit rules say no punting.
Summit rules, wow. It's like Fight Club.
Fight Club, I mean, who am I to break Summit rules and ask you to punt when you want to?
All of the trips to hide the treasure were done within a 24-hour time span.
Okay. Are the clocks part of the cipher?
Are the clocks part of the cipher?
Yes. Are the clocks part of the cipher?
Are the clocks part of the cipher? Yes.
Okay.
I don't like that look.
Was the animal scene one that made you feel free? Oh, fear. Sorry, fear.
Was the animal that I saw?
Remember how you talked about
I recall.
it was
yes.
in Sandal's episode. Was the animal scene on that one that made you feel fear? I
Feel
read
fear?
that backwards. Yeah.
No, the animal. I did not get any sense of fear in myself by seeing the animal. No.
Okay.
Oh, and for those that don't know, I know there's a lot of interviews and stuff out there. It's hard to keep up on this stuff. So, what I mentioned in the interview actually with Sandal is that along the way of hiding the treasure, I saw an animal that I had never seen before, and it was a very surprising experience to me. I felt a lot of gratitude to see that. Felt to me like almost like a once in a lifetime thing. And anyway, that's the backstory. And no, I didn't feel any fear when I saw it. It was actually quite the opposite.
But did you feel free? No, just kidding. During your interview on X Marks the Pod, a question at 15 minutes and 8 seconds of possible trinkets that might be found along the way, you answered in the context of trinkets, there is something along the way that will help significantly. Would you elaborate?
Boy, what else can I say?
I mean, that was pretty valid, though. Like, they had the timestamp, bud.
Wow, how else to phrase this? It's pivotal. It's pivotal to your journey.
Are the ancient gates a very obvious location, or is it possible to locate the bride without being certain of the ancient gate's location?
I think it would be a little strange for you to discover the bride without understanding the gates.
Is it possible for a searcher who is actively working on the hunt and boots on the ground for their solve to be at the checkpoint location and not recognize it?
I suppose that depends on how close you are to the checkpoint. I don't mean to be obtuse. Sorry. I hear you, Sandal. But it is the correct answer. Yeah.
Do your rules rule out railroad tracks?
Do the rules rule out railroad tracks? Which rule in particular are we talking about?
I would suspect the man-made part is what they're going for.
I see. Yeah, I mean, I think I talked a little bit about this concept of it's true to say that some people could interpret one of the clues as having a man-made implication, depending on how you interpret the poem. But it is I think based on how the rules are described, railroad tracks are ruled out.
Do you need to move any rocks?
Do you need to move rocks?
Any rocks.
Any rocks? I'm gonna punt on that one.
Oh.
Yeah.
What pep talk would you give to a seeker who is very close to either the checkpoint or the location?
I feel like I know who asked this question.
Tell me who you think it is, and I'll tell you if you're right.
At the risk of sounding cliche, the night is darkest before the light. And if you are confident in the location in which you're searching, I see little reason to stray. But I suppose it really boils down to how you've built that confidence.
Are there any clues in the Tucker poem?
That's a pointed question. Are there any clues in the Tucker poem? I mean, I think a reasonable person would say that that poem is helpful.
You've met, oh, see? Are numbers in the poem ever indirectly encoded? Ergo, wordplay, homophones, or hidden within words? And if so, does this assist either directionally and or help with measured paces?
All right, we're going to have to
To
parse this
final
one. Hold on.
Okay, let's go point by point. Are numbers in the poem ever indirectly encoded?
Are numbers in the poem indirectly encoded? Boy, indirectly, that's a tricky one.
They gave you options: wordplay, homophones, hidden
Yeah,
within
yeah.
words.
Well, so hold on. We're talking about numbers, but now we're talking about homophones. Are we talking about a homophone that represents a number?
I mean, ergo.
It's a tricky question. I'm not trying to be too much of a stickler, but I know how this goes in the sense that afterwards people will pick this apart and say, "You said this," you know. So I want to make sure I get it right.
You want to hear the
It's
second part again?
important. Huh?
You want to hear the second part again?
So let me just break it down a little bit, and I'll try and answer it the best that I know how. Are there numbers indirectly associated with the poem? Regardless of what the question is, this is the one I'm answering.
Okay.
And I think the answer is yes. And the other question about homophones and so on, I'm not going to touch that. But what was the other part?
Okay. The other part is, and if so, does this assist either directionally and or help with measured paces / distance to the final locations while boots on the ground?
Yeah, I mean, there's a distance element in terms of following clues in the poem. But I'm not going to rule out things like homophones and whatever else was mentioned.
You had options. It was like wordplay,
Yeah,
hidden numbers were hidden within words.
No,
You
I
had some
think
options.
I'd like to keep those in play.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like you answered a big chunk of this earlier, but there's some specifics, so I'm going to read it. There are multiple word and numerical discrepancies between the book versus the audio/ebook within specific sentences. Are these intentional? If so, this is long. If so, can you explain their significance, whether they related to the cipher/container, physical boots on the ground solve, or part of the armchair solve prior to the boots on the ground? Here's your examples. Big Hill mentioned an Idaho book versus Utah.
Yeah.
Doc's death, 1940 versus 1949. Running down the hill, 6.5 miles versus 3 miles. Grandpa Fitzwater's age, 83 versus 86.
So for those that don't know, I did publish an errata that's on the website, treasure.quest, and it is a running tally of the things that people have found that were unintentional inaccuracies in the book. And the purpose of that is to make sure that people don't spend time on things that don't matter, that were truly just mistakes. And so I'd encourage you to look at that errata, and it's possible that people have maybe emailed me new things that should be part of the errata that I missed. So feel free to re-email those. But I heard a couple specific ones here. There was a question around the discrepancy in my grandfather's age. That is not intentional. If it's there, it's a mistake. And then I think you mentioned something else around Utah versus...
Yeah, in the Big Hill, in the book, it's Idaho, and in the audio, it's Utah.
That was, surprisingly, an audiobook narrator error. So that is not intentional.
Doc's death, 1940 versus 1949.
If there's a discrepancy there that's not in the errata, it should be. So it's not intentional.
Last but not least, running downhill, 6.5 miles in the book versus 3 miles in the audio.
Let me take a look at that one. Well, that's interesting. I actually didn't know that existed. But if there is that discrepancy, it is certainly unintentional, not intentional.
Okay. Does one need to be at the bride to identify her foot of 3 or some distance away?
You guys are tricky. One more time. Sorry.
Does one need to be at the bride to identify her foot of 3 or some distance away?
That's hard to answer. If I guess it does make sense. Let me take one more look at it. Sorry, guys. I want to make sure I get this right. I should have looked at these questions beforehand.
Yeah, you should have.
Does one need to be at the bride to identify her foot of 3 or some distance away? No.
There you go. Okay. When and where was the first place Brandon joined you on your boots on the ground search for forest treasure?
The first time Brandon joined me on the Forest Fen treasure was in Yellowstone, and it was at Iron Springs.
Does the location of the treasure truly predate any of the locations you searched for the first Forest Fen treasure?
No, I have not specified.
I was thinking I hadn't heard that one. Does the location of the treasure, oh wait, sorry, it moved again. Is the checkpoint location visible in Golden Greed?
Is the checkpoint location visible in Gold and Greed? No.
Okay. Ew, goodness.
Not specifically, no.
Is shadowed sight from the perspective of the searcher a location or a concept?
I'm going to have to look at that one. Is shadowed sight from the perspective of the searcher a location or a concept? Both.
This is so fun. When you were hiding the treasure, you said you saw an animal in the wild for the first time. Which animal class did it belong to?
Which animal class did it belong to? It was mammalian.
I almost said something so bad. Okay, what's your favorite story from your grandfather's book? Where the hell did you come from?
Golly, there's a lot of good stories in there. I like the story about the time that he confronted a poacher at a cabin where they were having a poker game. And due to some belligerence, he was forced to bring this individual in, and he started acting up in the car, and they had a little bit of a standoff, if you will. I think just that really encapsulates my grandfather in the sense that he was actually small in stature, especially compared to me, and he was very good-natured until he wasn't. And there was a very clear line, and you never had to guess which side of the line you were on. And I just feel like that story kind of personifies or really brings that out in his character. So I like the story.
If someone locates the checkpoint, is it still available for others to find, or is it something that can be taken and no one else can find?
Yeah, I'm going to punt on that one.
I think you might punt on this one too. Where exactly is the location of the treasure?
Well, that's a question.
I mean, that one seems very succinct.
Can I see that?
Sure. Are you looking who it is?
Where exactly is the location of the treasure?
I feel like I got that one out okay.
I mean, how exact do you want to be? I mean, it's on Earth. I really don't know the right way to answer this. I'm just.
I have a really good
Give me a
answer for
moment.
you if you want me to help you.
Oh yeah,
The American West.
the American West. It's certainly not a place that you have to go many miles to find. I think what I've seen in the treasure hunt is, there are a number of people that are going pretty deep into the wilderness, and there are some people that are certainly taking risks, and this is really not something that you need to do. And I know it's kind of subjective, like what defines a risk. But I do see people that are still rappelling into caves and looking on cliff sides. And gosh, you don't need rope. If you need rope, then it's not the right location. But yeah, I know that doesn't at all answer the question, but it's the best I got.
I think that was pretty good considering. With many seekers in Tucson right now, some may try to locate your brother's memorial. How does that make you feel?
When I wrote the book and this Netflix series came to pass, I knew that was a risk. And what I will say is that the area in which my brother's memorial is located is very rough country. And I do not suggest that anyone try to go there. And I think, as I've conveyed before, the treasure is not in the immediate vicinity of that memorial. So there's in terms of the treasure hunt, there's really no need to go to it.
in the poem Beyond the Map's Edge, are there any references to specific Native American legends?
I have not specified.
That's true, he hasn't. When you say you don't need to hike more than a mile to figure out where the treasure is at, is that from start to finish or just when one is going and retrieving? What is the approximate hiking distance from the beginning to end of the poem?
I think the way that I originally phrased it still stands. You certainly don't need to go more than a mile to figure out where the treasure's at. You're not going to be going many miles into the wilderness. This is meant to be a somewhat kind of curated experience. So, you know, I mean, seriously, if you're getting to a point where you're needing to, you know, drink many bottles of water or something like that, you're going too far. So, it's actually, all things considered, I did it with a broken tibia. So, I was on the mend, but you don't need to take any big risks here. I don't think that completely answers the question, but that's the best I got.
Super close, super close. What's one mistake you see participants consistently make when interpreting clues, and what mindset shift would help them improve?
I think it goes back to what I mentioned earlier in one of the sessions, and that is, it might behoove people to take a Matt stance, Matt the editor. And what Matt mentioned is he took his treasure hat off, right? And he read the memoir as a memoir. And no, you certainly don't need to read the memoir to find the treasure. But for people that are having trouble and needing more context and understanding of me and so on, which I think some understanding of me is important, the memoir is helpful. And I think reading it as a memoir is useful. And certainly there you can read beyond that, and I'm not saying that more semantic meaning of each of the sentences isn't important, but I think it might be helpful for people to, if you're getting in deep and you feel like you're going down many rabbit holes, probably the best reset is to just read it as a memoir.
I like that. Is the hole in the poem the hint with the man-made implication?
Let me take a look at that one.
Yeah.
Is the hole in the poem the hint with the man-made implication? No.
What is your favorite childhood memory with your brother Brandon?
Gosh, that's tough. This is going to sound strange. We used to build forts back behind the backyard, and he was building a fort one day, and I was spying. He didn't know that I was watching, and he was trying to build a bench, and he had set up this kind of rinky-dink metal thing, and he sat on it, and it fell over. And it was the first time I heard him curse as a kid. I won't repeat it here, but he set that thing up, it must have been 17 times, and sitting on it and falling over, cursing and trying again. And that replays in my mind. And I think it boils down to, I think, the resilience that he had, even at a very young age. He was a very stubborn kid. But that's, for whatever reason, that one really sticks out to me. And it's funny because I really wasn't involved. I was just an observer. Yeah.
in an interview, you were asked if you feel you could have used a different words or phrase in the poem for greater clarification. Is bride one of those words?
Let me take a look at that
Yeah, I figured that was coming.
one. In an interview, you were asked if you feel you could have used a different words or phrase in the poem for greater clarification. Is bride one of those words? No, I'm pretty pleased with that one.
For an optimal solve, does the poem need to be read or rearranged in any way other than how it's represented on the website and in the book?
I'm not going to rule that out.
Oh, goodness. You mentioned earlier that the treasure location could be accessed this has got to be somebody from another country. March 31st, 2025 at 8:10 p.m. Would people also have been able to locate the treasure at that time? They did like British time.
I'm just going to reread this. Sorry, I'm just making sure I want to get this right. You mentioned earlier that the treasure location could be accessed March 31st, 2025 at 8:10 p.m. Would people also have been able to locate the treasure at that time? And I think the answer is if you knew exactly where it was, you could retrieve it. I'm not saying whether or not it would be easy, but it's possible.
Is the bride a physical object like a river or mountain?
The bride is something that is visible.
What is closer to the treasure, the checkpoint or where you figure out where the treasure is at?
Oh my, let me take a look at that.
Please do.
What is closer to the treasure, the checkpoint, or where you figure out where the treasure is at? Boy, I'm not quite sure I understand that question.
I think the conjecture is that people think you say the checkpoint is a checkpoint. And in one interview, which there's a few out there, you said that line. You said specifically the line where you figure out where the treasure is at, as though the checkpoint wouldn't be that place.
I'm struggling with how to answer this because I'm not sure I totally understand the entirety of the question. But the checkpoint is really a necessity in terms of finding the treasure. You'd be hard pressed to get all the way without seeing the checkpoint. Yeah.
When discussing the passing of Brandon in the documentary, a B-roll clip of Red Mountain in North Phoenix is shown. Brandon was found in the Rincons west of Tucson. Was the Red Mountain clip chosen by the documentary crew as a fill-in, or was it chosen specifically for the scene by Justin?
That was B-roll that was chosen by the crew. I didn't have any influence or involvement in that.
Is the location where you hid your treasure within 75 miles of a place where you searched for the Forrest Fenn chest?
75 miles.
Not 76.
75. I searched a lot of places, guys. So yeah, I mean, it's true to say that at some point I had searched for the Fenn treasure within that 75-mile radius. Yeah.
Interesting. Is the location where you hid your, how many hints slash clues are in the stories in the book and not including the poem?
I'll have to read that. How many hints slash clues are in the stories in the book, not including the poem? I haven't counted them, but there are several. And I also want to make sure that people understand the answer that I gave in the prior question. Because when I first heard about the Fenn treasure, I had a question for Forrest in terms of, he said it was hidden in the Rocky Mountains. And my question was, Is it any Rocky Mountain, or is it the official Rocky Mountains? And so that led me down a whole other rabbit hole and thinking that, my gosh, it might not actually be in the Rocky Mountains. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't want someone to get the impression that necessarily I've, eliminated a bunch of states or something like that. So, yeah.
Does I wait for you to cast your pole refer to a fishing pole?
I have not specified.
Is the hunt 24/7 accessible year-round?
Is the hunt 24/7 accessible year-round? I mean, I suppose that would depend on your definition of accessibility, but it would be possible.
Is double arcs on granite bold the clue with the man-made implication?
Punt.
Do you need to get your feet wet to obtain the treasure?
You don't have to.
I have so many follow-up questions. Is there a time travel element to the hunt?
Is there a time travel? Boy, that would be cool. Not to my knowledge, no.
Is all footage in the Golden Greed documentary that you wished to be in the documentary actually in the documentary?
Yeah, I'd be hard pressed to think of a scene that didn't make it. I feel like I got really lucky. The universe was in my corner that day when it came together, because everything that I really wanted to be included got included.
I'm not sure how to take this one. The latest bribe. A wrinkled $20 bill, and I will take a picture with you. 10 square mile area is good enough. Don't want to be greedy.
Okay. I don't know what to say to that one.
I, too, don't even know what to think about that one. Do the states you've chosen for the summit event have anything to do with the treasure, where the treasure is located?
Well, I'm certainly not going to rule them out. There was a lot of things that actually went into choosing this location. For those that are not aware, we were actually looking for a location that had easy access for everybody, that was low cost, that had preferably an international airport. At some point we had looked at, I think even a few people had thrown around places in Utah and even over in New Mexico. And then we also talked to people up in Phoenix. I think we got a quote for $83,000.
$83,000. I think the highest we got was like $162.
Yeah, so not cheap. Venues are surprisingly expensive. And so that's how we actually ended up in the Tucson areas, because the price point is still pretty cheap for everybody to come in, and accommodations were reasonable. And we were not conflicting with the Gem and Mineral Show, which is a huge, huge thing here. And actually, a funny story, originally we booked at Old Tucson Studios. Okay. And I thought that would have been a really fun venue as well. And I feel like we got a little lucky in the sense that we didn't expect this heat wave this early.
Yeah.
And much of Old Tucson Studios is outdoors. But they actually double booked. And so they had to back out. And thankfully, the Expo Center was available and the air conditioning worked out great. So here we are.
I do love it.
Yeah.
I love the air conditioning. Would a snorkel be helpful in this treasure hunt?
Would a snorkel be helpful? Wow. Sounds dangerous. Now, a vehicle snorkel, or are we talking a human snorkel? But
They did not specify.
words matter. I'd say generally no. If you're going snorkeling, please and looking for the treasure, just don't. It's not needed.
Has the third stanza of the poem been solved?
Let me take a look. I want to make sure I get this right. Third stanza. In Ursa East, his realm awaits. His bride stands guard at ancient gates. Her foot of 3 at 20 degree returned her face to find the place. Part of this stanza has been solved. Yeah. At least part.
Has anyone figured out where or what the hole is in the poem?
Yes.
You said that up to halfway of the second stanza of the poem, oh, pretty much you just answered this, but I'll read it anyway. You've said that up to halfway of the second stanza of the poem has been solved. If so, can you say how many more clues have been solved?
It's different clues. Some different clues have been solved from different people. If I look at the person that I'm aware of in the world that has solved the most of this, I would say that they've solved at least 6 clues.
Justin, how exhausting is it to have how exhausting is it to have to cryptically answer question after question about your hunt? Will you miss that or be relieved after the hunt ends?
These Q&A sessions are kind of interesting to me because I do like to think on my feet, and it's kind of a fun challenge to make sure that I answer this the best way that I know how. But yeah, I suppose over time it gets a little taxing at times, but I'm still having a lot of fun with it, and I hope you guys are too.
Have you ever seen a wolverine in the wild?
Was that Cynthia? Yes, I have. Yes.
Is shadowed sight from the perspective of the searcher a location? We already had that. They got down arrowed. I guess they didn't like that question. Ooh. Do you have a solution for the harmful effects of data centers? How do we balance technology and nature?
Wow. That's different. I like it. So I actually think data centers are a very temporary problem. And what we're seeing right now is all across the country, there's these land grabs, and we're seeing a lot of concern about these big data centers rolling out and all this energy that they're going to be using. And it's true, that is concerning, but I maybe have a radical viewpoint on this, but I think within the next 5 years, we will actually have the world's first data centers in space. And that actually solves our problems in many regards. One is that it's optimal temperatures for data centers. You don't have to worry about the heating problem that we have right now, which is sucking up so much energy. And if you think about it, with the sun, we use less than 1/1,000,000% of the sun's energy today. And if we are in space with appropriate technology, we can harness much more of what the sun has to offer. And so we solve the energy problem almost overnight. And then the only thing left in space is how do you transmit the data back to Earth? And it turns out lasers are pretty good at that. And we actually have the technology to do that now. So I think within the next 5 years, it will be a solved problem. I know it's very concerning right now, but I think we're right at the inflection point of solving that.
I love how when you talk tech, you get so enthusiastic. Okay, are there multiple meanings to cast your pole?
I think people can interpret it in different ways, but there's only one correct interpretation. I heard that. Which one? Sorry.
You have said that there are no clues in the legal section. Is it correct then that the Angzar is not a clue?
Yeah, so it turns out that Angzar is in the legal section, isn't it? I think the fairest answer is that the Angzar itself that appears in the legal section, that particular symbol is you can rule out because it's in the legal section. And for those that don't know, at some point somebody asked me to eliminate, I think, a chapter where there are no clues, and so I mentioned probably the best one to eliminate is the legal lowdown. There's no intentional clues that I recall in that chapter, and there's a little Angzar symbol that those are familiar with that resides in that chapter, and that very specific symbol is not, it's okay. You don't have to worry about that.
But also pay attention to that chapter.
Yes, please.
How long of a period did you go without seeing a person when you were headed to the final location of the treasure?
Yeah, so when I went to hide the treasure, it Turns out it's actually really hard to be anonymous and private in the US. Even very simple things like driving to the store. It's not easy because you have a license plate, and that license plate, there are many different cameras that see you along the way, and so there is a record that develops. So anonymous travel is very hard, and I really wanted to be seen by the least amount of people possible. And so my route was convoluted. It was very deliberate and very taxing, you could say. And I did it twice. And the first time was that kind of a dry run to make sure I kind of got the kinks worked out. But overall, extremely few people ever saw me along the way. And that's for a multitude of reasons. And in cases where people did see me, I was actually in disguise. So that helped.
Do I need a wizard staff during any part of the hunt?
Every journey needs a good walking stick.
Before we go on, I want to tell you that it's 7:08. Should we, I can't remember what, Jam, what was how long were we supposed to go till? 7:40? 20, so we have 12 minutes, okay.
You guys are troopers. I feel like I'm putting everybody to sleep here.
Yeah, I can't believe this whole first row is not out cold. If you've made a tangible progress, is the map in the book still useful, or is it most useful in the beginning of the hunt?
If you've made tangible progress, is the book and...
Is the map in the book still useful,
Still
or is it
useful.
most useful in the beginning of the hunt?
I think it's a good primer. Yeah.
What are you willing to elaborate about the structure, logic of the poem as it guides you through the clues?
There's nothing that I'm aware of that needs clarification right now.
Dang. Okay. Thank goodness. Say and answer a question you're shocked no one has asked pertaining to your hunt. And answer. That is a good one.
Boy. I mean, I can think of a lot of questions. I'm just trying to decide which one.
You're going to love the next question.
I mean, you know, at this point in the treasure hunt, when I say that, you know, I can think of a lot of questions, many people have asked many questions, and so I'm hard pressed to say. Boy, this is a tough one, guys. Hang on, give me a moment. I need to pace again. I'm sorry. Walk the size of a kitchen.
Sure, I'm glad to read it. Say and answer a question that you're shocked no one has asked pertaining to your hunt. So basically, they're asking him to pick a question and answer it, but he hasn't ever had it before. You like that clarification?
I mean, I really like this, and I mean, I can think of actually one very specific question that would be extremely useful to ask. But if I pose it to myself, it's actually something I can't pose to myself. But I know somebody actually out there probably already knows the question, and I'm keeping an eye out for it. So we'll stay tuned on that one. But I can think of a question. I'm sorry, I can't verbalize it though.
Okay. This is Slow Stellar. We've asked you and one other thousand questions. What are 3 to 4 different questions you would ask a seeker of your treasure that could help them understand the journey you've created and have embarked upon? If possible, please ask us at least one question related to Boots on the Ground, one related to the book, and one related to the poem, and one related to Golden Greed.
Holy cow. Let me take a look at this.
Slow stellar. That was neither slow or stellar.
What are 3 to 4 different questions you would ask a seeker of your treasure that could help them understand the journey you have created and we have embarked on? I don't know if I'll do 3 to 4, but I'll say that for better or for worse, in any treasure hunt, there is, I don't like this term, but there is a creator. And every creator has motivations. They have a reason for doing what they do and something that drives them. And I think understanding that is important. No matter who is hiding a treasure. I mean, if you think about Forrest Fenn, if you believe where the treasure was found at 9 Mile Hole, he did it because of significance. And if you read the memoir as a memoir, I think a reasonable person who wasn't even looking for treasure could read that memoir and say, you know what, that's a recurring theme. That was important. And so I'd say intent and understanding a little bit about the person that hid it is part of it. And I wish I could say like there's a way to hide a treasure where you have no bias at all from your upbringing or the experiences you had, but I actually don't know if that's possible. So I'd say that just generally, it's not really a question you should ask, but a theme, I guess you could say. I don't know if that helps or not. Yeah.
Ben specifically mentioned 9 Mile Hole in his book, which the clues led to the area. Do you mention the area for the first actionable clue in your book, or is your book written as more of a theme or of the general area?
Oh, sorry, I gotta look again.
I mean, I couldn't read that twice.
Do you mention the area? I mean, I think probably in the book I at least mentioned the American West, so it's in the American West. I mean, it's interpretation here. I'm trying. So I'd say the very specific area is not mentioned, but there are times in the book where descriptions pertain to the area where the treasure is hidden.
The dedication feels layered and very intentional. Could you walk us through how it came together when you wrote it, the headspace you were in at the time, what influences shaped it, what you hoped it would convey, and whether it was meant to acknowledge someone or something specific or something more symbolic?
Yes, the dedication was actually probably the last thing that I wrote. Actually, that's not true. It was the legal stuff. But the dedication was the last meaningful thing that I wrote. And it is layered and it is intentional. The headspace that I was in was a time of reflection and a time of what's to come. I was on the precipice of things really coming together. I was certainly nervous about it, but it was really about reflection and the influences that shaped it and what I hope to convey. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that I am talking about a person in that dedication. And I'm not going to say who that person is, but it is somebody that is very special to me and important in my life. And I felt that it was an injustice not to do so.
Send it back to me at the top.
Silly technology.
Okay. Okay, I found it. Nice try. Can you tell us more about your first elk hunt?
My first elk hunt?
Yeah.
My earliest recollection is actually going to the Mogollon Rim in northern Arizona, actually with my stepdad and my mom, and we camped there. And I actually didn't hunt at that time. I had bow and arrow. I was really terrible at it, and I was definitely too young and weak to even have a compound bow. So it was more like just kind of shooting and archery and target practice. But my stepfather and the whole hunting crew were there, and it was an elk hunt. And that's the earliest recollection that I have.
Could you talk a bit about the Wyoming map you're holding in Golden Greed and how those circled areas fit in your fence solve, especially since they didn't come up in your Dale article?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, I looked at hundreds of locations for the Forest Fen treasure, and I'm sure there was some on that map that I had circled that I was excited about. And boy, we'd probably be here all night if we started talking about all the locations that I searched. But there were certainly some circled on that map.
Are there poem clues that reference or are related to the sport of golf?
Let me read that one. Sorry. Are there poem clues that reference or relate to the sport of golf? I haven't specified on that one.
Oh, wow. We are instructed to walk near water's silent flight, round the bend, past the hole. If the entire poem is understood, is it intended we walk without driving to the treasure location from here, where we are instructed to walk?
Yeah, I'm not going to narrow that down, but you're not, that should probably be it's probably the least of your concerns at that point.
How deep is the dang hole?
Sounds like forest. Yeah. How deep is the dang hole? Deep enough.
Following the rules of the area, can your dog physically walk the kitchen size area without breaking them?
Can the dog walk the kitchen size area without
Breaking them.
breaking them? I'm confused by the question.
Can your dog physically walk the kitchen size area without breaking them? That is literally the words.
You mean without breaking the dog? Gosh, that sounds horrible. Dogs would be safe walking the area. Yeah.
That's good.
Oh, without breaking the rules. Oh, I didn't hear rules in there. Did I miss that?
Just following the rules of the area.
Oh, following the rules of the area. See, this is a tricky one. And the reason I'm hesitant to answer these types of questions is because things can change. And if they change, then, people say, well, at this point, you said this, and why did you say that? And, I just try and avoid the conspiracy or discrepancies there altogether. And so that's generally the reason why I'm hesitant about talking about whether or not you have to pay or whether or not dogs are allowed or whatever rules pertain to that area, because there's always the possible for change. And it's actually, I think for many types of land, more likely than I think some people realize. And so I'm generally hesitant to answer those questions. But to the best of my knowledge, and this will be the last time that I do this, to the best of my knowledge, based on how the rules and regulations are today, I am not aware of anything that would preclude you from having your dog with you.
This is our last question, and then we're going to have a little hunt. Is east a portion within one Ursa, or is there a west Ursa and an east Ursa?
Let me take a quick look.
Yep.
Is east a portion within one Ursa, or is there a west Ursa and an east Ursa? You only need to worry about Ursa East. That's the simple way to look at that.
So that's our question.
That's it. Okay.
Good job.